Chapter 360. Gu Mingming placed her hand on Elvis's chest and said, "Whether you have a change of heart, you don't have to go through the trouble of cutting open your stomach. I just need to look into your eyes and I will know." Elvis looked at Gu Mingming in confusion, and when he met her clear eyes, he smiled. That's right, one's eyes could not lie. He could also easily tell how much Gu Mingming liked him from her eyes. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Gu Mingming then continued, "I made a scene today to give her a taste of her own medicine. I want to let her know that it's useless to play tricks with me. White and green, they are all leftovers from my play." The three males were dumbfounded again. They completely did not understand what Gu Mingming was saying. Elvis reached out to pluck a leaf from the side and passed it to Gu Mingming, saying, "Green? You can play with it first. I will help you find a new one tomorrow." Gu Mingming was taken aback for a moment before she started laughing. "Your IQ. Ah, you are indeed a husky." Elvis completely did not know what Gu Mingming was laughing about. But seeing her laughing so happily, the corners of his lips could not help but curl up. Gu Mingming laughed enough before continuing, "Green refers to a green tea bitch. This kind of person is most commonly seen in my world. Pretending to be weak, innocent, pitiful and ignorant. The green tea bitches in my world are much more experienced than her. With her acting skills today, she is just a beginner in my world. A newbie who can fight against 5 trash." Then White. Leah looked at his own tail and was a little worried. Gu Mingming said, "White refers to a white lotus. Pretending to be the Virgin Mary, kind, pure and loving. Not only can I not hate you if you kill my entire family, but I will also forgive you, protect you, take care of you and influence you. The classic line is, how could you do that? What's the difference between you and him?" It was as if everyone around her was mud and they were the only white and flawless flower that was not tainted by dust. This kind of thing doesn't happen in real life where I come from, but I've seen a lot of them in TV dramas and novels. She's a self-taught person. She wants to compete with me, who has passed the 4th or 6th grade in palace dramas and has a double postdoctorate in romance novels. TSK, I'll give her 2 hands and 2 feet. I can stare her to death with just my pair of eyes." Elvis and Leah exchanged glances, deeply feeling that the war between females was far more terrifying than the war between males. What had they experienced today? What did I miss this time? He felt as if he had walked through a bloody battlefield, but he didn't realize that he had almost died on the battlefield. F***me. It was so dangerous. Then, what do we do next? For the first time in his life, Leah felt that his brain was not enough. This had already exceeded the limits of his understanding. The females in Sauter in the past, were there any like this? Gu Mingming shrugged and said, "It's not what we want, it's what she wants." Elvis frowned. "Since it's so troublesome, why don't we just chase them away?" Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "Even if we chase away a lunatic today, there will be another one tomorrow. Instead of guarding against someone who we don't know when they will appear beside us, why not guard against someone we already know? The more we know she has a problem, the more we have to keep her under our eyes. As long as we make use of her properly, it will be a good thing for us. This is also the reason why Leah wanted me to agree to let her stay today, right?" Aside from the topic, "Author, son TSK, you picked up a green tea bitch today." Elvis, "I know." Author, "How did you know?" Elvis, "My wife told me." Author, "Do you understand what your wife analyzed for you?" Elvis shook his head, expressing, "I don't understand. But whoever my wife says is a green tea bitch is a green tea bitch. I'll listen to my wife." Author, "You're intelligent, you're indeed my son." Update completed for today. Continue tomorrow. Babies, please vote for Susuch. Chapter 361. Smart. Leah smiled approvingly and tapped Gu Mingming's brow. "You're indeed the great messenger. You got it right away." Gu Mingming understood what Leah meant. He was trying his best to ease the awkward atmosphere. No matter how upset he was, he did not want her to feel guilty. So Gu Mingming played along and wrinkled her nose. She pretended to be proud and said, "I'm a very low-profile person. I don't like to worship others. Moreover, don't mention this kind of thing that the whole world knows about." Leah smiled faintly. His eyes were filled with love. He replied gently, "The great messenger is right." Gu Mingming cleared her throat. "You guys better tell me about the beauty pageant first. What should I do then?" Gu Mingming looked up at Elvis. "You've been there many times, right? Tell me, will they be competing in singing, dancing, or poetry?" Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's raised face. "They'll compete in eating." Gu Mingming was dumbfounded. "Isn't it a beauty pageant?" Why did it change to an eating contest? Elvis smiled. The biggest insecurity of a male in the beast world comes from the fear that his partner will not survive the winter. The stronger the male, the more afraid he is of this. This was because once the female died, the weaker males would definitely die due to the backlash of the mating contract. However, the stronger males might not die. Most of the time, not being able to die itself is an even greater torture. Gu Mingming remained silent for a moment. She hugged Elvis's neck and asked, "Yeah, just like when you suddenly fainted when you were leveling up. I thought you were too seriously injured and could not survive. I felt extremely helpless then. I felt that if you were not around, my world would collapse. I don't know how I could survive without you in the beast world." Elvis's heart warmed at Gu Mingming's words. He kissed Gu Mingming's head and stroked her hair gently. "I'll protect you. I'll always protect you." Gu Mingming nodded her head obediently. She continued, "But what has this got to do with eating in a beauty pageant?" Elvis adjusted his position so that Gu Mingming could sit more comfortably. He then replied, "In the eyes of a male, the way a female eats is the most beautiful. The more a female could eat, the more energy she could store before winter, and the higher her chances of survival during winter. Therefore, this is one of the most basic and important factors for males to choose a mate." Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly. She recalled how Elvis and Leah racked their brains to trick her into eating food previously and could not help but smile. "So you guys have been trying to make me eat food the entire winter because you were afraid that I would not be able to survive and starve to death during the winter?" Elvis nodded his head seriously and pinched Gu Mingming's tummy twice. He sighed regretfully and said, "I didn't know you were pregnant at first and thought you had finally put on some weight. I was so happy, but you chased after me and beat me up for the entire day. You also looked very angry and I didn't eat properly for 3 whole days." Gu Mingming's eyes widened. Gu Mingming face-bombed and said, "We can store enough food before winter and eat slowly during the winter, so we don't have to eat ourselves into a ball. Look, last year we had salted meat, salted fish, potatoes and sweet potatoes. Although it was a little monotonous, it was mainly because time was too tight and I did not have time to find more. This year, I have experience and can definitely prepare more food in advance. Winter is not a problem at all. So don't worry, I won't starve myself to death and leave you alone. Moreover, we still have a son. I still want to live to a ripe old age and watch my son marry a wife." Aside from the topic. Chapter 362. Elvis automatically ignored the part about his son and only heard Gu Mingming saying that she would not leave him alone. He smiled blissfully and then hugged Gu Mingming tightly in his arms, whispering into her ear, "Remember this promise, do you understand? Never leave me alone." "Yeah." Gu Mingming hugged Elvis back, smiling blissfully and gently. Leah cleared his throat, coughed and said, "Mingming, about that female, do you want to ask someone to send her back to Saint Nazaire now or bring her?" Gu Mingming said without hesitation, "Comparing eating, even 8 of me can't beat one Sandy. Those who came to participate in the beauty pageant are all the eating generals from the tribes. It's not enough even if I become a force-fed duck. That female, haha, just in time to use her." "You want her to participate in the beauty pageant for you?" Leah asked. Gu Mingming stretched out a finger and shook it, saying, "No, she will only participate in the Eating King segment. As for recruitment, I have other plans." "Recruit?" Elvis and Leah were no longer surprised by Gu Mingming spitting out new words from time to time. They just looked at Gu Mingming in confusion, waiting for her explanation. Gu Mingming smiled like Zhou Bopi with a cunning look on her face, shrugging her shoulders and shining eyes. She looked like an evil capitalist thinking of how to exploit the poor commoners. To be more specific, it was a little like the landlord in QQ Fight the Landlord. Ever since I came to the beast world, I have been doubting my own worth. I have regretted more than 800 times why I chose human resource management as my major in the first place. Why didn't I learn carpentry, metallurgy or medicine? Now I understand I was born with a talent that has a use, it has a use. My major is prepared for the annual large-scale blind date. Oh no, the large-scale job fair." Gu Mingming put on a look as if the heavens were pitying her and she could finally show off her ambitions, saying with a smile, "A large number of talents, beast talents? They are strong males looking for a tribe that suits them in this beauty pageant. Isn't this the same as looking for a job in the job market? It's just that the way you guys look for a job is too random. Whether the job is good or not depends on how much the female eats. This is not scientific, it's not scientific at all." "Then you mean?" Leah pressed on. Gu Mingming chuckled and said, "I have my own plans you guys won't understand even if I tell you. In short, Lil Miss will combine the theories I learned with reality to create the most suitable recruitment plan. As for the rest of you, as long as you believe, don't ask. Okay? Elvis, Leah and Ian looked at each other, then mimicked Gu Mingming's gesture of okay and said, "Oh? Oh. As for that female, as long as she's not an idiot, she should know that she's no match for me after today's battle. As long as she knows her place, Saint Nazir won't be short of food from her. But if she dares to play dirty with me? I see that the snakeskin pattern on her lower body is unique and exquisite, and I have never used a wallet made of Nuwa skin." Elvis and Leah looked at each other and smiled. They were already used to Gu Mingming's ruthless words from time to time, but if they really asked her to skin them, she would probably be more cowardly than anyone else. However, the fact that she had taken a fancy to the female's tail, the two of them had already firmly remembered it. Aside from the topic, someone asked me, will the things in the introduction happen? Chapter 363. Gu Mingming looked at Ian and then at Leah, asking, "Has Ian been following us all this while?" Leah nodded his head as a reply. "Since he has already joined the tribe, why didn't he directly walk with us?" Leah smiled and said, "His route is different from ours, they walk above." As Leah said, he pointed at the top of their heads. Gu Mingming reacted, it was indeed inhumane to force a bird to give up on the sky and walk on two legs. She smiled awkwardly and asked again, "Then what do you guys eat on the way? Did you bring enough food?" Ian was surprised. He looked at Gu Mingming and then at Leah. Seeing that Leah was indicating for him to explain to Gu Mingming, he hesitated for a moment but still opened his mouth. "As long as it's not winter, we have plenty of food everywhere." Gu Mingming tilted her head and looked at Ian, asking, "What do you guys eat? Is it like an owl?" Ian tilted his head to the side, as if he was a little embarrassed, as if he was not too willing to answer Gu Mingming's question. Leah used his hand to cover half of his lips, moving closer to Gu Mingming's ear in a flirtatious manner, using a volume that everyone could hear to whisper, "I don't know what an owl eats, but I know what he eats." "What does he eat?" Gu Mingming's eyes shone with a thick spirit of gossip. Leah sneered and did not answer Gu Mingming's question. Instead, he looked at Ian and said, "If there's really something wrong with that fellow, remember to leave the skin on her tail when you guys eat her." Gu Mingming said she likes it. Ian pursed his lips and looked at Leah. He did not say a word and just transformed into an eagle owl, flapped his wings twice and flew up close to the ground, disappearing into the night in less than 2 breaths. Gu Mingming's smile froze on her face. She turned her head and asked Leah, They eat humans?" Lee's gaze was calm as he fiddled with a small tuft of fur on the tip of his tail. "I have already reported to the beast deity that these 32 people from the Eagle Owl tribe will protect you in the name of Yong Yi. If Elvis and I are your fangs and claws, Barit and Colin are your armor and shield, then these 32 people from the Eagle Owl tribe are your wings, hiding in the darkness to protect you, to bring you wherever you want to go and to remove obstacles for you. If they threaten you, even if it's me and Elvis, they will use all means to bring us up to the sky and tear us into pieces. They will never forgive us." 2 words popped up in Gu Mingming's mind out of nowhere: embroidered uniform guards? Where the rod is stuck. Leah looked at Elvis and saw that he was also confused, so he asked, "What is that?" Gu Mingming explained, "It's an organization that is not loyal to the country but loyal to the emperor himself. They are not under the jurisdiction of the imperial court and directly take orders from the emperor. There's no right or wrong, they don't question right or wrong and only obey the emperor's orders." Leah nodded as he listened and smiled. "Embroidered uniform guards is better than Yong Yi. Why don't we change the name of the Eagle Owl tribe to Embroidered Uniform Guards?" Chapter 364. Gu Mingming did not know that Ian had secretly returned to his original spot after flying 1 round and was hiding on the tree above her head. Therefore he had heard every single word that she had said. Ian's eyes flashed in the darkness and he chuckled. He had indeed found a good backer for his clansmen. Shouldn't they have the fate of hiding in the shadows and not being able to see anyone? He had never dared to make such a promise to his own clansmen. That day when Gu Mingming and the rest returned from the forest, they bumped into a heated scene. The new female's snake tail was wrapped around a male's body, and the male's hands were tightly hugging the female's upper body. The two of them were performing an indescribable movement in a magical posture. Gu Mingming stared with her eyes wide open for 2 seconds before burping. She then turned around and buried her face into Elvis's shoulder, saying softly, "My eyes hurt, my eyes hurt." Leah looked at Gu Mingming in confusion, then took out a chili from his beast skin bag and passed it to Gu Mingming, saying, It's not dried yet, I found it on the road. The effect might not be as good as what you eat during the winter, but it should work. Who do you want to spit? Can I help you? Gu Mingming looked at the chili in Li's hands and was stunned for a while before she reacted. Leah had told her that they had grinded the chili into powder and scattered it on their enemies' faces in the winter when he gave her the chili in the cave. Gu Mingming had jokingly said that this move was called spicy eyes. It was just a joke and she did not expect Leah to remember it. However, the current situation was not suitable for him to explain these things. Gu Mingming took the green chili from Li's hands and took a bite. After chewing a few times, she patted Elvis's back and said, "The scene is too beautiful, I don't dare to look. Let's sleep somewhere else." Elvis knew that Gu Mingming had some special rules when it came to mating, but he thought that she just did not like others to see her mating. Now that he saw it, she did not like to see others mating either. Elvis glanced at the orcs who were mating with the half-orc female snake and laughed in disdain. "There's really nothing to see. How about I throw them further away? I won't disturb your sleep." Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "Sigh, doing bad things is like killing one's parents. It's too immoral. Forget it, let's just change places." Elvis thought about it and asked, "Isn't disturbing one's sweet dreams like killing one's parents? Why do bad people do good things like killing their parents?" Gu Mingming remembered that she had shouted this sentence when Nina was disturbing her sleep outside the cave. At that time, Nina said that she was looking for Leah in her cave. Gu Mingming laughed bitterly, thinking to herself how many holes had she dug for herself with her mouth. If he were to explain them one by one, well, there was no need to change the location. The and at the back could be used as background music. He reckoned that after he finished explaining the nonsense that he had said in the past, the accompaniment would probably stop. How the F***ck should I start with? Welcome everyone to Gu Mingming's Nonsense Lecture Hall. Today's BGM is a unique live mating poem recitation with a hint of coquettish vibe. Gu Mingming shuddered and twitched her lips. "Bring me to wash my eyes first. If I stay here any longer, my eyes will become useless. By then corns will grow, and I'll have to dig them out." Elvis was taken aback. He did not expect things to be so serious. Gu Mingming's eyes would become useless when she saw others mating. It was only until Elvis, who was burning with anxiety, brought Gu Mingming to the stream to help her wash her eyes, but instead, Gu Mingming tore off his beast-skin dress and threw herself into the stream. She looked at him from head to toe in a lustful manner that he finally understood how to wash his eyes. Chapter 365. The next morning, when Gu Mingming returned to the campsite in Elvis's arms, there were already 4 to 5 males sitting around the half-orc female. Seeing this scene, Gu Mingming could not help but exclaim, "So damn efficient. Great messenger, hello." The half-orc female came forward and bowed to Gu Mingming. She looked so docile and respectful, totally not looking like she was playing tricks with Gu Mingming yesterday. Gu Mingming returned the same gentle smile and said, "Since we're on the same side, you don't have to be so polite. You can just call me Gu Mingming like everyone else." "How can I do that? You're the honorable great messenger," the half-orc female said in a panic. Gu Mingming squinted her eyes and smiled. She thought to herself to keep saying the words messenger of the beast deity. She was obviously afraid that she would not attract enough attention, right? Back then, that idiot Nina only spread her suspected identity as the messenger of the beast deity and she almost died under Dumbo's claws. TSK, such a gentle knife. She was trying to push her to the heart of the struggle. But it was a pity that Gu Mingming did not intend to hide her identity as the messenger of the beast deity, or else she would not have participated in this eating contest under the guise of a beauty pageant. "You want to play? Let's play then." Gu Mingming patted Elvis's shoulder and gestured for him to put her down. Then she walked slowly to the front of the female and sized her up, asking, "What's your name?" "Ellie." The half-orc female answered respectfully. Gu Mingming nodded and asked again, "Ellie, yesterday, how many males in our tribe did you mate with?" Ellie turned back shyly and looked at the males surrounding her. She answered, 4. Gu Mingming nodded approvingly while continuing to size her up. Ellie lowered her head shyly and said, "Although I'm just a half-orc female, I will still fulfill my obligation to mate for the tribe. As long as they don't despise me for being a half-orc, I will give them a chance to prove their loyalty to me." Gu Mingming gestured for him to stop and frowned in deep thought. She asked, "You mated with 4 males, then what about your mating mark?" Allie's brows drooped, looking like a delicate and pitiful little white flower. She bit her lower lip and did not speak, as if she was about to cry. Reporting to Lord Envoy. Ellie's first partner, the one she caught yesterday to plead with Elvis, stood in front of Gu Mingming and gently hugged Ellie's shoulders to comfort her. Then he explained for Ellie with a face full of heartache. Our mating mark is on Ellie's tail. Because it was a half-beast, it was covered by the snake scales and could not be seen. Because of this, Ellie has been upset for the whole night yesterday. So, Great Messenger, please don't ask any more. Oh. Gu Mingming nodded with a look of sudden realization. She thought to herself, little guy, you have some tricks up your sleeves. You managed to win people's hearts so quickly. However, this didn't seem to require any special methods. Looking at Quentin, it was obvious how blind the males in the beast world were towards love. Chapter 366. Ellie was taken aback. She thought that Gu Mingming would expose her so that she could cry and pretend to be pitiful to gain the favoritism of most people. But, why didn't Gu Mingming follow the script? Ellie's first partner grinned and comforted Ellie. See, I told you that the Great Messenger is easy to get along with. We have a half-beast female bear in our tribe who was always bullied, but the Great Messenger never looked down on her and even became best friends with her and always took care of her. Ellie quickly tidied up the shock on her face and changed into a harmless and weak look. She nodded and smiled at Gu Mingming, saying, Great Messenger, you are really a good person. Ding dong, Gu Mingming received a good person card. Gu Mingming laughed coldly. Damn it, she really didn't expect that the first good person card in her life was given by a coquettish and cheap green tea bitch. Gu Mingming remained calm and patted Ellie's shoulder, saying, Don't worry, Saint Nazir is a tolerant tribe. You just have to stay in the tribe and live a good life. Yeah, I will. Ellie smiled brightly, but it did not match her snake tail at all. Gu Mingming did not say anything more and just turned around to return to Elvis's arms. Nothing much happened during the day's journey, but when night fell, Ellie's mating operation started again. Gu Mingming found an excuse to leave with Elvis and Leah while Ian naturally followed them secretly. After walking to a sufficient distance, Gu Mingming then spoke, Leah, tell the tribesmen that I don't wish to see more people mating with Ellie. Leah nodded and did not ask why. Elvis looked at Ian again and asked, Ian, snakes? Are they one of your food sources? Ian nodded and did not say a word. Gu Mingming asked again, Then do you have a certain level of understanding towards snakes? Ian still only nodded. Gu Mingming continued, When I held her hand today, did you see her tail? Ian nodded again, and after a moment of silence, he finally opened his mouth and said, When you approached her, her tail started to tremble. That is the sign of an attack. She wants to kill you. The last 4 words undoubtedly touched Elvis and Lee's reverse scale. The surrounding atmosphere instantly froze. The two of them exchanged glances and made a decision. Gu Mingming gently raised her hand and said, Calm down, calm down. Analyze it, alright? Lee's fingertips were slightly cold as he hooked Gu Mingming's chin lightly. He frowned and said, No matter how useful she is, we cannot use your safety as the price. So we can't keep this Ellie. Didn't you say she was sent by Sauter? Gu Mingming said, Think about it, Sauter calls itself the Messenger's tribe, but a messenger's tribe without messengers is destined to be annihilated. So Sauter's motive should be to obtain me and not to kill me. A dead messenger would be useless to Sauter, right? Since Ellie is from Sauter, not only will she not kill me, she will also protect me in danger. Chapter 367. But Gu Mingming shook her head and said, Maybe her tail shaking today was just her instinct. After all, females are precious and she has already mated with the males in our tribe. If we want to kill her, we will have to sacrifice our tribesmen. It's not worth it, it's really not worth it. Leah was silent and speechless. But Elvis spoke up, From the moment they chose to mate with Ellie, they placed their fates in the hands of that female. This is their own decision and no one else has anything to do with it. Gu Mingming cupped Elvis's face and kissed it, saying, I know you are worried about me, but Ellie is not Nina. Before she does anything substantial, I don't want to kill the innocent. Moreover, I want to use her to catch the big fish. Elvis thought about it and nodded silently. He then turned around and broke off a branch that was as thick as an arm from a tree beside him and said, I will tie her here for you to fish tomorrow, is that all right? Gu Mingming face-bombed and said, Hubby, I don't want to catch the fish in the water but the people behind her, so, I don't think I have to use this branch anymore. Elvis felt a little regretful. He was still hoping that after she finished fishing, Ellie would have no more value to him and he could get rid of her as soon as possible. Leah looked at Gu Mingming and asked, You want to use Ellie to lure the people from Sauter out? Gu Mingming nodded and said, correct. How to lure them out? Leah frowned and had a bad premonition. Gu Mingming didn't answer Li's question and just asked with a smile, how far are we from Sauter now? Li's gaze was cast in a direction and he was silent for a moment before saying, about half a day's journey. We should be able to reach by tomorrow afternoon. Gu Mingming looked at Li's nostalgic gaze and couldn't bear to see him like this. She asked, this is your first time back to Sauter? Leah shook his head and then nodded, saying, when Saint Nazir was first established, Elvis and I came here once. But we didn't enter the city and just left after saving Maya at the periphery. After that, Elvis would bring people to escort Nina to the beauty pageant every year while I stayed at Saint Nazir to look after the house. Gu Mingming nodded and patted Li's shoulder lightly. If you feel that it's too much, you don't have to accompany me in. But Leah smiled. His long and narrow eyes became gentle and determined when he met Gu Mingming's gaze. His voice was low and he spoke slowly. He enunciated each word clearly, I'm not going in with you. I only have the courage to face that place with you around. Gu Mingming smiled. Perhaps it was because the moonlight was too gentle, so her smile was exceptionally tranquil. His voice was like the melody of flowing moonlight. His ears could not hear it, but his eyes could see it clearly. His heart could feel it. It's my honor, Gu Mingming said. Elvis hesitated for a moment but still decided to break the beautiful silence. He frowned and said, Leah, before you left Sauter, were there people from the snake tribe in Sauter? Chapter 368. Elvis nodded, then continued, I also find it strange I've never seen anyone from the snake tribe in any tribe, and I have a strange feeling towards her, it's very familiar, just like a stray beast. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis in confusion, asking, there are female stray beasts? Isn't it said that females are very precious, and every tribe is fighting for them? Elvis replied, that's usually the case, but there are exceptions like Nina. Gu Mingming was taken aback, then she frowned and said, don't tell me that the reason she doesn't have a mating mark is not because she's a half-beast, but because she's the same as Nina, a female who washed off her mating mark and was abandoned by the beast deity? Elvis nodded, and after a moment of silence he replied, other than being abandoned by the beast deity like Nina without a mating mark, there's another situation. Elvis's gaze dimmed as if his heart was very heavy. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis in confusion, then turned to look at Leah. Leah shook his head at her, indicating that he did not know what was wrong with Elvis. Hubby? Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck, using her forehead to gently touch Elvis's, saying gently, did you think of something bad? If you don't want to say, you don't have to force yourself. Elvis used his hands to hold Gu Mingming's singlet and pushed her towards him, taking a deep breath, filling his nostrils with her fragrance. After soothing the discomfort in his heart, he then continued, the other situation is when a female is snatched away by a stray beast, and after mating she gives birth to a cub. In this situation the cub is born as a stray beast, so there's no way to leave a mating mark. Gu Mingming saw an obvious emotion in Elvis's eyes, one that was more profound than sadness and more profound than pain. It was an indescribable complexity, causing her heart to stop for a moment. Without saying anything, she just hugged Elvis's neck tightly, using her entire body to fill his embrace. Just like me. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming back tightly, mustering his courage to say these 5 words. His identity was not a secret in the tribe, and he had never been afraid of revealing his background. Until he met her, he was afraid that she would despise him because of his life, alienate him, avoid him, and so he was always humble in front of her, always cautious, always worried about personal gains and losses. For the first time he felt that admitting that he was a natural stray beast required so much courage. At that moment he did not even dare to look into Gu Mingming's eyes. He was afraid of seeing her disgust, afraid that she would say that she wanted to abandon him. Fool, you have me and our 4 sons. You have a family, how can you be a stray beast? Elvis's heart skipped a beat and he could even hear the sound of his blood boiling. I didn't tell you my identity before mating, you don't blame me? Elvis furrowed his brows tightly, every word he asked sounded as if he was treading on thin ice. Gu Mingming exhaled and laughed. She placed her hands on Elvis's shoulders and looked into his eyes, asking, before you mated with me, did you have any special female friends? Hearing her strange sentence, Elvis frowned and shook his head. Other than Leah, I don't have any friends. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis ambiguously with an I understand expression, then looked at Leah with an evil smile. Chapter 369. Since you didn't cheat or come out of the closet before marriage, why should I mind? Gu Mingming smiled casually, her clear eyes emitting a light that was gentler than the moonlight. She shone down a layer of radiance, lighting up Elvis's heart that had been sealed in ice for a long time. Those unbearable, cold and dark memories seemed so insignificant in front of her smile. But I was once a vagrant, fool. Gu Mingming held Elvis's face with both hands and looked into his eyes seriously, saying, before we met each other, we were all vagrants. Luckily you found me and I found you. Then we became each other's hometown, no longer having to wander from place to place, no longer having no one to depend on. Every piece of land we walked hand in hand was filled with poetry and distance. Xiaomeng. Elvis leaned forward and kissed Gu Mingming's lips deeply. Heaven knew that from the moment he fell in love with her, he had always been worried that his identity would become the reason for her to abandon him. And this reason now seemed so pale, so laughable, just so. If all the hardships and torments in the past were to meet her, then, it was too worth it. Even if the past were to repeat itself 100 times in exchange for female happiness, Elvis felt that it was worth it. So, the beast deity did not abandon him. He was only testing him, training him, and now, he gave the best to him. After the kiss, Gu Mingming slapped Elvis's head, raised her chin and said, "Call me queen." Elvis was instantly dispelled by Gu Mingming's slap. He smiled helplessly and shook his head, but his heart was filled with warmth. He knew that Gu Mingming was using this method to pull him out of his sadness. But what she didn't know was that his sorrow had already vanished into thin air in her smile. The moment Gu Mingming said that she did not care about the past, it no longer had any meaning. Holding Gu Mingming's little hand, Elvis planted a kiss on the back of her hand and said sincerely, "Yes, my queen." Gu Mingming nodded approvingly, then snuggled back into Elvis's arms. That was her exclusive throne. Then she looked up at Elvis and asked, "So you suspect that Ellie is the child of a stray beast?" Elvis nodded and said, "I can't rule out this possibility." Leah continued, "After returning home yesterday, I specially observed Ellie carefully. She really matches the characteristics you mentioned. And these were things that females in the beast world would never do. The circumstances of their lives made it impossible for them to conceal their true intentions. Because no matter what they want, the males will agree. As for Ailey, she's too understanding and impeccable." Gu Mingming nodded and said, "Unfortunately, perfection itself is the biggest flaw." This was the first time Leah had heard of this theory. He was stunned for a moment and pondered over it. He did not reply and just smiled. The next morning, when Gu Mingming and the gang returned to the campsite, Ellie's males had increased from 4 to 9. Gu Mingming praised Ellie's positive attitude towards solving the problem of mating in the tribe and encouraged her to continue working hard in the upcoming beauty pageant to win more followers for the tribe. Perhaps only Ellie's 9 partners who did not know the truth, believed it to be true. Out of topic. Today's update is over. Continue tomorrow at 9. Chapter 370. The hidden daggers between Gu Mingming and Ellie had already started to show. Because other than the 9 males that Ellie had already mated with, she could no longer seduce any other tribesman from St. Nazaire. Or rather, under Lee's guidance, Ellie's 9 partners became nervous. No matter what Ellie needed, the 9 of them would cooperate with each other to complete it quickly, not giving her any chance to extend an olive branch to anyone else. And although Ellie was furious, she still maintained her innocent demeanor and did not dare to show her dissatisfaction. According to Lee's prediction, they arrived at Sauter in the afternoon. Standing at the entrance of the messenger's tribe, Gu Mingming looked up at the horizontal board on the 2 wooden pillars. The 4 words "messenger's tribe" were written in a sage-like manner. It was just that it had been a long time and had been weathered badly. Gu Mingming felt that if she were to sneeze here, the horizontal board could be shattered into dust and blown away by the wind, never to be seen again. Elvis did not know how to read and just followed Gu Mingming's gaze upwards. It was just a piece of broken wood with a few scratches from claws. He did not know what was so nice about it. But Gu Mingming had always been fond of unusual things and he was already used to it. So he asked softly, "Do you like it?" Gu Mingming snapped out of her trance and looked at Elvis's face. She calmed herself down and smiled. "No, it's just that I haven't seen simplified Chinese characters for a long time. It's a little familiar." Leah frowned and looked at Gu Mingming asking, "You recognize the markings on it?" Gu Mingming did not answer but asked back, You don't? Leah shook his head and said, this wooden board was left behind by the previous messenger. Other than her, no one knows what it means. Gu Mingming asked in surprise, you guys don't know how to read? Then what do you guys think of those ancient books that you mentioned in the past? Leah said, ancient books are for worship and not for reading. Gu Mingming, Leah said, the contents of the ancient books are all passed down from father to son, son to grandson, generation after generation. So when it reached my generation there aren't many left. Or else. Li's gaze drifted towards the interior of Sauter. His gaze was deep and cold as though it was calm, but his heart was already in turmoil. His thin lips parted slightly, still smiling, but every word seemed to have the weight of 1,000 gold. He said sonorously, how could I be so easily tricked by them back then? Gu Mingming patted Li's shoulder and said, revenge is a dish best served cold. Now that we're here we might as well help you take revenge. Gu Mingming pointed at the severely weathered signboard and smiled slyly, I know these words, I will read them to you from the ancient books later. Leah was taken aback but his gaze immediately turned gentle. He smiled and said, all right. Gu Mingming took the initiative to hold his hand. Hubby, let's go. Elvis carried Gu Mingming up and used the beast's skin to cover her little head, trying his best not to expose her face. But even so, the group still caused quite a commotion when they entered Sauter. If not for Elvis and Leah exuding a strong aura along the way, the three of them would have been surrounded to the point where they could not move an inch. And beside Ellie, who was just a few steps away, other than the 9 males who had already mated, there was not even a single foreign fly. A snake's eyes were poisonous after all. Perhaps it was unintentional, but it was hard to change one's nature. Aside from the topic, recommending 111p for support, Overlord Pet. Cute queen is too mischievous, a beautiful sheep fell from the sky and someone on the ground turned into a wolf. Mo Shuyang, sheep. The war went on, the country was saved, but was captured by the enemy leader in the end. Captured to be a manservant? Serving tea, cleaning the backyard, coaxing a bunch of drama queen women was one thing, but he had to be in charge of warming the bed? Damn it, there were so many women in the backyard but he had to pester his mother. Was there something wrong with his brain? Situ Lang Wolf, woman, this king is very interested in the cat you're raising called Duo La whatever dream. He wanted to be a cat lover but in the end he became a wolf that ate sheep. Sheep, I realize that you're more adorable and easier to bully than that cat. A certain sheep was roaring in his heart. Sheep, I'm not a wolf, do you believe me? Chapter 371. If there was anything in the messenger's tribe that made Gu Mingming happy, it would probably be the houses. This place was different from Saint Nazir. No one lived in a cave, or rather, the locals of Sauter and the females who came to participate in the beauty pageant did not need to stay in a cave. There were old houses that resembled those in an old village, built with pieces of huge green stone bricks. Honestly speaking, it really could not be considered luxurious. If it was in the modern world, it would either be a cultural heritage that was being protected, or an endangered building with a big red demolition sign. But in this place, it already showed the difference and superiority of the messenger's tribe. Are you representing Saint Nazir to participate in the beauty pageant? A guard at the entrance of the stone house asked Elvis, who was standing in front of him. Yes. Elvis replied. The guard glanced at Leah and did not say a word. He just turned his body to the side to let them in, indicating that they could enter. After entering the house, Elvis placed Gu Mingming on the stone table at the side, before he and Leah started to clean the house. The house was very simple, just a simple little house. In the modern world, the layout of a child's house was much more lively than this house. It was not that Gu Mingming was picky, but this little house was not even half the size of her dormitory. Now that the three of them were inside, it was already a little cramped. If either Elvis or Leah transformed into their original forms, they would probably directly break the frame of this dilapidated house. There was a stone bed in the room. The surface was full of bumps and hollows, but the edges were abnormally smooth. It was not an exaggeration to say that this damn bed had been slept into paste. Elvis and Leah took out a piece of tiger skin and laid it on the bed, before arranging Gu Mingming's little pillow. The giant rabbit skin quilt was neatly folded at the side. After settling everything, Elvis carried Gu Mingming to the bed and said, "It's been a tough journey for you. Take a rest first. I will bring my tribesmen to the cave at the back of the mountain to rest, and help you bring food back." Gu Mingming nodded and said, "Then be careful and come back quickly." Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's forehead lightly, then exchanged a look with Leah. Without saying anything else, he turned around and left. Gu Mingming dangled her feet on the bed in boredom as she watched Leah place the fruits he picked on the way on the table in an orderly manner. Then he took out the clothes that Gu Mingming needed to change into for the next few days and checked them one by one. Those that had problems were immediately remedied and those that had no problems were folded and placed at the side. He was in a relaxed and natural state, as if he did not feel any discomfort after returning to solder. On the contrary, Gu Mingming was not used to being alone with Leah like this. She cleared her throat and asked, "That, you shouldn't have been recognized, right? I think they're all quite normal. It shouldn't be possible for someone to suddenly rush in with soldiers to capture you, right?" Leah smiled and tilted his head to look at Gu Mingming. "The first beauty of a tribe lives in every stone house here. If you create trouble here, you will be offending all the tribes at the same time. Even Sauter would not dare to do such a reckless thing, so what you are worried about will not happen. Don't worry." "Oh," Gu Mingming responded, but felt that something was wrong. She thought for a while and looked up. "So they recognized you?" Chapter 372. Gu Mingming laughed coldly and said, "Do you believe that it's a coincidence that this person is guarding the door?" Leah shook his head and said, "There are no coincidences in Sauter." Gu Mingming nodded and said, "So, our every move has long been monitored by someone. That person is just here to make the final confirmation." "Leah, should be." Gu Mingming jumped down from the bed and walked to Lee's side. She leaned against the table and crossed her arms in front of her chest, asking, "What do you plan to do next? You can't just sit and wait for death, right?" But Leah gave a faint smile and said, "They probably don't have time to care about me now." Gu Mingming raised her eyebrows and said in a slightly tsundere tone, "That's true, the messenger of the beast deity who has been waiting for 1,000 years has descended. Naturally they don't have time to care about you, the exiled Ninth Highness." "What? Do you want me to use my identity as the messenger of the beast deity to help you vent your anger?" Leah supported his cheek with one hand and looked at Gu Mingming from the side. After a long time, he slowly opened his mouth and said, "You are worried about me, right?" Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly. She had finally calmed down from the strange atmosphere of being alone with her ex-boyfriend in a room, but Lee's words pulled her back again. Shrugging her shoulders, Gu Mingming retreated back to the bed step by step and sat properly. She smiled and said, "Never mind if you don't need it, just treat it as me being nosy. You are so smart, you must have thought of a complete solution and don't need me to worry, right? Ha, ha ha. I really love to worry for no reason." Leah turned around and his gaze was still fixed on Gu Mingming. He sighed helplessly and said, "What should I do? I was just worried about you back then, so I followed you here in a moment of impulse. As for countermeasures, I totally didn't think about it. After all, according to my plan, Nina should have been the one to participate in this beauty pageant." Ah. Gu Mingming was a little flustered and started to regret asking Leah to execute Nina on a whim. At that time she felt that she had thought it through thoroughly, but now she was still not confident. After all, everything was only possible in theory. Damn it, Gu Mingming had never put it into practice. But Leah did not give her a chance to think carefully as he walked towards the bed step by step. Gu Mingming watched as Leah approached and inched further into the bed, while Leah pressed his hands against the side of the bed before leaning his body forward. Gu Mingming moved back a little and Leah moved forward a little. Until Gu Mingming had shrunk to the corner of the wall and had no more room to retreat, Leah pressed his hands on both sides of Gu Mingming's ears and said innocently, "I am the witch doctor of Saint Nazir and also your beast pet, so, you will protect me, right?" What the hell? Wall slam. Where did he learn that? Gu Mingming pushed Lee's shoulders and laughed awkwardly. "That, I definitely have to protect you. But can you not bring up the pet thing again?" Leah lowered his head and looked at Gu Mingming's hand that was pushing against his chest. He deliberately used an extremely ambiguous tone and smile and said shyly, "You have touched me and slept with me, everyone in the tribe saw you pouncing on me. Now, it's fine if you don't give me a status, but you won't even let me be a beast pet? Gu Mingming, are you really going to abandon me after using me?" Gu Mingming instinctively retracted her hand. God have mercy, she was just pushing, not touching. Chapter 373. Gu Mingming did not object. After all, facing a sleeping Leah was much easier than facing a awake Leah. She did not know how long had passed, but she knew that the sun was already setting in the west. The afterglow of the setting sun dyed the outside of the stone room that did not even have a curtain. The glow softened the curves of the stone room, making everything look much gentler. Gu Mingming's eyes were already used to night vision, but she still preferred the feeling of being under the sun. Just as she was in a daze, she saw someone walking in. She looked up and indeed met with a pair of blue eyes. "You're back." Gu Mingming smiled. Elvis looked at Leah sleeping on Gu Mingming's knees and was momentarily stunned. But it disappeared in a flash. He did not say anything and just nodded. Then he opened the beast skin bag he was carrying on his back. There were pieces of raw meat that had already been processed inside. The other bag contained some brightly colored and plump fruits. One look and one could tell that they were the juicy, fragrant and tasty type. Gu Mingming carefully moved Li's head away and used a pillow to replace her legs. Then she quietly walked down from the bed and leaned on the table to wipe the sweat off Elvis's forehead. She said, "Did you run back? Your forehead is full of sweat." Elvis smiled as he brought a fruit to Gu Mingming's mouth. With an expectant gaze, he gestured for her to taste it. He replied, "I was afraid that you would be anxious from waiting, so I wanted to come back quickly." Gu Mingming took a bite. It was indeed as sweet and juicy as expected. She smiled happily and pushed the fruit to Elvis's mouth. She said, "Oh, it's super delicious. You should try it too." Elvis did not bite the fruit. Instead, he turned his face and kissed Gu Mingming's lips. His nimble tongue invaded her mouth until all the air in her lungs was sucked dry. Then he reluctantly let go of her. Then he smiled and wiped the juice stains off the side of his mouth. He said gently, "Yes, it's very delicious." Gu Mingming bashfully punched Elvis's chest. She said coquettishly, "You're so annoying." Elvis used a tree branch to skewer the meat one by one. Then he placed it at the side. He looked at Leah and said, "I'll go wake Leah up to cook for you. If not, you'll be hungry by the time the meat is done." Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "It's rare for him to sleep so peacefully, don't disturb him. You start the fire and I will roast the meat. I haven't cooked for you in a long time. Although my culinary skills are obviously not as good as Li's, just treat it as a change of taste. Eating once in a while, the most important thing is the thought, right?" Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's cheek and said, "The food you make is the most delicious food in this world, nothing else can compare. It's just that I don't want you to work too hard." Gu Mingming smiled and pecked Elvis on the lips. "Such a sweet mouth, I'll reward you with 2 more pieces later, all right?" Elvis smiled as he carried Gu Mingming out of the stone house. Then he started to light a fire. Gu Mingming hummed a tune at the side as she started to rub salt on the meat, brush some honey and sprinkle some chili on it. This was originally a daily scene, but it attracted many onlookers. More and more people came over, but no one dared to step forward to add flowers. Gu Mingming raised her head and noticed everyone's strange expression. She smacked her head and said, I forgot that everyone is afraid of fire. It's alright, don't be afraid. This is different from the flame demon. This is domesticated. It's very tame and doesn't bite. Aside from the topic, Gu Mingming, it's alright. Our fire is very obedient and doesn't usually bite people. Stop looking, let's go." Passerby *N. Liar, Gu Mingming, I told you to stop looking, can't you hear me? Passerby *N. You said it was very tame just now, Gu Mingming. What are you looking at? I'll set a fire and bite you if you keep looking. Passerby *N. You said you wouldn't bite people just now. It was indeed all a lie. Chapter 374. The crowd still did not appreciate her kindness, and neither did they go near nor leave. They just maintained a distance of about 5 steps to watch. Gu Mingming sighed. Forget it, this was not Saint Nazir after all, and she could not care so much. With that thought, she no longer cared about how others would look at her. She just placed the roasting meat on the fire and chatted happily with Elvis as though there was no one else around. Everyone started whispering to each other. Gu Mingming actually could not hear what they were whispering about, but Elvis could hear it clearly. The smile on Elvis's face gradually faded. He took over the roasting meat from Gu Mingming's hands and said, Xiaoming, let me do it. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis in shock and asked, Hubby, did I do something wrong? Why are you doing this to me? Elvis pursed his lips. He also knew that his cooking skills were really bad. The first time he roasted meat for Gu Mingming, she had diarrhea. The second time during winter, she even vomited. Why don't I wake Leah up? At most, I will keep watch at night and let him sleep again. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis and then at the crowd. She more or less understood why Elvis was like this. In the past, he had never insisted on such things. Gu Mingming would occasionally cook and it was not hard for her. She would usually do it for fun, so Elvis basically did not stop her. Today's cover song must have been because of the crowd. Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms and asked with a smile, "What did they say?" Elvis pursed his lips and shook his head without answering. Gu Mingming twisted her body in Elvis's arms and said coquettishly, "Good hubby, tell me, what did they say?" Elvis could not resist Gu Mingming's coaxing and pestering and could only answer, "They said that you must be too skinny and weak, so males despise you. That's why you only have two males protecting you. One of them is sleeping while the other is waiting to eat. They don't cherish you at all. It shows how miserable your life is." Elvis's brows furrowed together. He originally wanted his Xiaomeng to be envied by others, but now, Gu Mingming burst out laughing and said, "These words must be said by females, right?" Elvis nodded, not understanding. Gu Mingming smiled and said, "It's all right, we don't have to care about these gossips. This is the typical twisted mentality of saying that the grapes are sour because they can't eat it. In my opinion, they are most likely envious that I have such a good husband like you, and that we have such a good relationship. That's why they said such things, to deceive themselves and others, to find a sense of superiority. As far as I know, females can't do whatever they want, because there are many things that they simply don't know how to do. For example, something as simple as barbecuing meat. During the process of barbecuing, you can communicate with your partner and talk about the interesting things that happen throughout the day. After the meat is cooked, you can even share it. Although this amount is not enough for a male, it is a form of affection." Gu Mingming purposely raised her voice so that anyone who was not deaf could hear her. Gu Mingming kept the meat on the roasting rack and secretly tore off a piece of roasted meat from the side. She blew on it before passing it to Elvis and said with a smile, "Hubby, ah." Elvis blushed and took over the small piece of meat from her hands. Aside from the topic, author mushroom, Gu Mingming, you are attracting hatred. Gu Mingming, why you don't allow people to flaunt their love? Author mushroom, those who flaunt their love will die faster. Gu Mingming, this single dog has such a strong sour smell. Author mushroom, flips table. Gu Mingming, I will write you to death. Gu Mingming flicked her fingers nonchalantly and said, "Do you think Elvis will agree?" Author mushroom, I will write Elvis to death too. Gu Mingming smiled sinisterly. The ending of this novel is that the author envies Gu Mingming's blissful married life, so she wrote the male and female protagonists to death? Do you think the readers will agree? Author mushroom, Gu Mingming, I hate you. Chapter 375. Gu Mingming smacked a kiss on Elvis's face and said, "Hubby is so obedient." After she said that, she looked around with a cold smile and said, "If you have the guts, ask your own males if they are envious of my males." After Gu Mingming said that, a few females indeed turned around and exchanged a few words with their own males. Then, looking at the atmosphere, they knew the answer. Gu Mingming smiled and snuggled back into Elvis's arms. Her hands were still turning the roasted meat rack, but her mouth was not idle. She continued saying loudly, "I only need to do such a simple thing and I can make my partner the object of envy for all males. And I, myself, have this male that everyone else is extremely envious of. Why wouldn't I?" Elvis's heart was filled with sweetness. He knew that Gu Mingming basically did not care what others thought of her. But she was willing to say such a long speech to a bunch of strangers because she cared about his feelings. Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's hair and said gently, "Xiaoming, thank you." Gu Mingming looked up and kissed Elvis's lips back. She said, "Compared to what you did for me, this is nothing. No matter what others think, see or say, the person who is going to spend the rest of your life with you is me. So, what I think, what I see and what I say is the most important, isn't it?" "Yes, my queen." Elvis smiled. The females were obviously angry. They turned around and left. Some of the more hot-tempered ones directly ran away in tears. The males naturally followed nervously, and just like that, they all dispersed. Gu Mingming and Elvis finally had some peace. They looked at each other for a long time and finally burst out laughing. And on the roof of the stone house, Ian was standing in the shadows. Leah, who was lying on his side on the bed with his eyes wide open, had an indescribable complex look in their eyes. Was it envy? Or was it jealousy? Or both? The next morning, when Gu Mingming woke up, Elvis was sitting by the bed with his brows furrowed and looking at the door sternly. Gu Mingming followed his gaze but could only see Li's back figure blocking the door tightly. His furry big tail blocked the door so that not even a mosquito could fly in. "What's wrong?" Gu Mingming asked softly. Elvis seemed to have just realized that Gu Mingming had woken up. He hurriedly hid his dark face and took the beast skin coat from the bedside to help Gu Mingming wear it. Then he said, Sauter's leader is here, Leah is blocking them outside. Sauter's leader? What are you here for? Gu Mingming asked as she put on her clothes. I think it's because of the roast last night, Elvis replied. Gu Mingming said, What? Because I made the onlookers cry when I was roasting meat, so they came to find trouble with me? Do I have to go from house to house to apologize? I'm telling you I'm not going. I didn't ask them to come and watch. They came on their own. If they want to watch, then let them watch. I didn't even confiscate the ticket and just let them watch, but they still think they're blind. I'm already very restrained by not beating them up. There's no way I can apologize. I'm not going. Chapter 376. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis, twitched her lips and slapped her forehead. I forgot that both of you have amazing hearing, now I am too embarrassed to scold him for eavesdropping on us. Ninth brother, since the little female is awake, can I go in? That elegant voice sounded again. Leah did not give in at all, he just said coldly, Leader Cole, please forgive me, my little female is more delicate and has a bad temper, if someone she doesn't want to see enters. Leah stopped halfway through his sentence, while Elvis, who was in the house, suddenly released a large amount of pressure in unison. Gu Mingming was still sitting on the bed when she heard the sound of something falling on the ground outside the house. Gu Mingming finally understood. Elvis and Leah had developed a tacit understanding over so many years. Other than fighting, picking up girls, managing the tribe, they even had a godly coordination when it came to acting cool. Elvis's pressure did not seem to scare off the person who was called Leader Cole by Leah at the door, only to hear him speaking in a calm tone. Females are naturally precious, it's normal for them to have a temper. Although I am the leader of Sauter, I have no intention of offending you. Didn't you guard the door for so long just because of the word request to see? Gu Mingming muttered in her heart, didn't Leah say that the snow foxes of Sauter were extremely arrogant? Didn't they look down on everyone else other than herself? What? Did he give in to food after seeing that she knew how to roast meat? Was he the same as Sandy, anyone who had food was a good person? Elvis whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, I'm afraid they are here for the fire. Gu Mingming was stunned, then she realized that the main point was not the roast meat, but the fire used to roast it. It was said that it was the heavy weapon used by the previous messenger of the beast deity to rule the beast world. It was originally guarded by the snow foxes of Sauter for generations, but for some unknown reason, it was extinguished, and then there was no more holy fire. That's right, how could it be so easy to guard a fire? It could be extinguished with just a short nap. Gu Mingming nodded, wore her clothes and shot a look at Elvis, telling him not to worry, it would be fine. After all, Gu Mingming had wanted to meet the leader of Sauter. From Dumbo to Ali, it was impossible for him to pretend that he was fine, wasn't it? So Gu Mingming cleared her throat and called out to Leah, saying, Those who visit are guests, it's not good not to meet them. However, this is a place where females live after all, so it's really inconvenient for me to invite you in. Please wait for a moment, I'll come out right away. Everything is for the little female's convenience. As a male, it is an honor for me to wait. Cole's tone was still warm, humble and polite. Although they had not met, Gu Mingming had a rather good impression of this Cole. At least he was very gentlemanly and did not make others feel disgusted or guarded against him. Elvis helped Gu Mingming wear her boots and then tidied up her clothes. Only then did he feel assured and let her get down from the ground. He followed behind Gu Mingming and walked out of the stone house. Chapter 377. The little female in front of him was exactly the same as the messenger of the beast deity he had imagined. No, she was more perfect than he had imagined. Cole was a little agitated. He nodded his head deeply at Gu Mingming as a way to return her smile. Then he took a step back respectfully. May I know if I have the honor to know the name of this beautiful female? Gu Mingming nodded. In the modern world, this kind of pickup line would be extremely lowly. But here, coupled with Cole's elegant appearance, Gu Mingming only felt that he was a gentleman. Gu Mingming smiled and nodded. Leader Cole, how do you do? I am Gu Mingming, a female representing Saint Nazir to participate in the beauty pageant. Sorry, Gu Mingming was too embarrassed to mention the title of the first beauty of the tribe. Damn, it was too chinibu, too pretentious, too disgusting. Gu Mingming? Cole savored the name. He looked up at Gu Mingming's eyes and asked, Can I call you Agu? Gu Mingming did not suspect anything. Just as she was about to agree, Elvis and Leah answered in unison. No. Cole seemed very disappointed. But he could not do anything about it. He nodded. All right, then call me Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng did not know why these two fellows were so sensitive. But she was not used to a man giving her a nickname on their first meeting. So she did not probe further. She just flipped the page and went straight to the main topic. Leader Cole, you came to find me early in the morning just to ask me if I roasted meat here last night? Gu Mingming glanced sideways at the pile of ashes in the corner. Isn't the answer obvious? You have been here for the whole morning. Don't tell me you didn't see it? No, I actually came because of another question. Cole said seriously. I heard the female accompanying you call you the messenger of the beast deity? Gu Mingming smiled. Did Cole really have nothing to do with Ellie so he did not know? Or was he in cahoots with Ellie to trick her? Unable to see through this mail, Gu Mingming did not hide anything. If I am the messenger of the beast deity because I can light a fire, then I should be. This answer made Cole's blood boil. He clenched his fists in agitation. After taking 2 deep breaths he said, We need to carry out a ceremony to confirm your identity. If you are really the messenger of the beast deity? Gu Mingming did not say anything. She just lifted her chin and looked at Cole as if waiting for him to continue. But Cole did not say anything. She just smiled and said, I. Gu Mingming did not say anything. With that, Cole placed his right hand on his left chest and bowed to Gu Mingming before turning to leave. But before he could take 2 steps, he suddenly stopped and looked at Leah. Ninth brother, you haven't returned for so many years, you must miss Sauter very much, right? Gu Cole of the brother of you to Imo. Shao of Imo, he Shao of Gu of me. Master. Gu, of to, my Xiaomeng dotes on me very much. She can't not see me for even a moment. Cole frowned and started sizing up Gu Mingming. He asked in confusion, You have already made it? Gu Mingming's expression changed. Leah shook his head. He smiled brightly and innocently like a child. I didn't mate. I am Xiaomeng's beast pet. Aside from the topic, high energy warning ahead. Chapter 378. Gu Mingming jumped up and hooked her arms around Li's neck. She covered his mouth and laughed awkwardly. Leader Cole, since you still have things to do, we shall not waste your time. Please go ahead, please go ahead. With that, without waiting for Cole's reply, she carried Li's head back to the stone house. After sneaking a few glances to make sure that Cole had left, Gu Mingming then released Li's neck and glared angrily. Are you done? Must you announce to the world that you are my beast pet so that no female would want you in the future? Are you happy? Let me tell you, if you want to use this method to make me feel guilty, then let me tell you, you are thinking too much. It is your choice to not take your own life seriously. I will not be responsible for your choice, do you hear me? Leah was as obedient as a primary school student. He stared at the angry Gu Mingming with deep affection and smiled blissfully. Hey. I am talking to you, why are you smiling? Gu Mingming looked at Li's joyful look and was even more furious. Leah looked at Elvis and asked, So this is how it feels to be reprimanded by Gu Mingming? No wonder you always make mistakes in front of her and make her shout. The veins on Gu Mingming's forehead instantly bulged and she placed her hands on her waist. Am I praising you? Leah took a step forward and bent down slightly, sending his ear to Gu Mingming. His eyes curved into a bridge and he said in an expectant tone, Do you want to pinch my ear? It looks quite painful, but I still want to experience it. Gu Mingming was so angry that she did not know how to get angry. She blinked her eyes at Leah and asked, Are you a damn masochist? Do you have masochistic tendencies? Leah thought about it seriously, then nodded his head and said, Only towards you. I like it when you are angry at me. Because when you are angry, that pair of beautiful eyes will focus on me. Although it is a little scary when you look like you can shoot fire from your eyes, but the danger is very beautiful and makes one addicted. As Leah said that, he gently caressed Gu Mingming's cheeks. That pair of narrow and affectionate eyes clearly reflected Gu Mingming's slightly sympathetic expression as if she was looking at an idiot. However, Li's lips curved upwards and he took a deep breath, enjoying the fragrance that permeated the air that belonged to her. After reminiscing for a while, he then continued, If you will also pull my ears and scold me, if you will also throw potatoes, sweet potatoes and salted fish at me, if you will also set 3 rules with me, ordering me not to use you as a bet, not to say that it doesn't matter whether you like me or not to abandon you, that will be even more blissful. Leah leaned closer to Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming could even clearly feel the temperature of Li's breath and his unique scent. Li's gaze was filled with pleading, with a tinge of resentment and anticipation. He asked softly, "Hey, satisfy me too, all right?" Satisfy? Satisfy what? Gu Mingming took a step back and lost her balance, almost falling. Leah quickly grabbed onto Gu Mingming's waist and pulled her inwards. Gu Mingming's abdomen was pressed tightly against Li's abdomen. This position caused Gu Mingming's feet to be unable to land on the ground. After kicking twice, it made her look even more comical. Gu Mingming pouted and shouted at Elvis, "Hubby, he is already teasing me like this, aren't you going to have any reaction at all?" Aside from the topic, today's 9 chapters are over, babies, continue tomorrow. Yeah, I know it's not satisfying enough. I will try to save more manuscripts and wait for the editor to inform me when I want to add more chapters, alright? Be obedient and hand over all your tickets. It was said that only works with good rankings would have the right to be recommended. With recommendations there would be more chapters. So, do you guys understand now? Where are the tickets? Chapter 379. Elvis thought about it and walked forward. He hugged Gu Mingming into his arms with one hand and twisted Li's ear with the other. Then he said expressionlessly, "Since Xiaoming isn't willing, then I'll satisfy you. It's about this strength. Are you happy now?" Leah slapped Elvis's hand away and turned around saying, "You can't make me feel happy and satisfied. I'm not interested in males." Ha ha ha. Gu Mingming laughed like an idiot and trembled in Elvis's arms. When she finally stopped laughing, Leia came in with breakfast for her. Ian caught some fish at the river before the sky brightened. Leah removed the fish bones and boiled it with sweet potatoes to make a porridge-like paste. He mixed some honey into it before bringing it to Gu Mingming. He scooped a little with a small spoon and blew on it to warm it. Then he brought it to Gu Mingming's mouth saying, "Ah." Gu Mingming reached out to take the bowl and said, no need, I can do it myself. I'm in good shape, I'm not a vegetable." But Leah dodged and looked at Gu Mingming sadly saying, "You promised me in the past to treat yourself as a severely handicapped person who can't take care of himself and let me take care of you in everything." Gu Mingming clicked her tongue and said, "Let's not talk about the past, we can still be friends." Leah swayed his tail happily and said, "This is what you said, let's not talk about the past, we can all start afresh." Gu Mingming said, "Hey, don't change my original words. I said, we can still be friends. Who said anything about starting afresh?" Leah said, "Didn't we start as friends in the past? If we can still be friends, doesn't that mean we can start afresh?" Gu Mingming said, "Everything that happened before this year's spring is called the past. Just let it go with the wind and neither of us will mention it again, okay?" Leah mumbled something but Gu Mingming did not hear it clearly. It was just some grumbling and Gu Mingming did not pursue it further. She just asked in an emphatic tone, "Okay?" Leah nodded and said with some grievance, "If we don't mention the past, can we talk about the new things?" Gu Mingming nodded and made a pleased gesture. Leah pointed at Elvis and said, "Elvis humiliated me just now, he touched my ears. If this gets out, I won't be able to be a fox anymore. Sob, as the head of the family, shouldn't you comfort my wounded heart?" Gu Mingming really wanted to maintain a stern image, but she could not hold it in. She doubled over in laughter on the bed, slapping her thighs while saying, "I knew there was something going on between you two, ha." Elvis's face darkened as he carried Gu Mingming, who was crying from laughing so hard. He tilted her little chin and forced her to look at him. He clenched his teeth and said, "Other than you, I have never slept with anyone else." Gu Mingming looked at Elvis's darkened face and tried to hold back her laughter. But the more she tried, the more she wanted to laugh. In the end, she could only tremble until it was vibrating. Elvis sighed. He could not do anything to Gu Mingming and could only turn to look at Leah. "Can you stop saying things that will cause Xiaoming to misunderstand? It was not easy for me to prove that we are innocent, but if you say the same thing she will." Leah did not buy it. He placed the cold porridge and the spoon into his mouth and tasted it. The taste was not bad, it should be the type that Gu Mingming liked. Then he scooped another spoonful of porridge and blew on it before answering Elvis, "Are we innocent? Aside from the topic." Chapter 380. Gu Mingming instantly stopped smiling. Like a frightened rabbit, she straightened her back and looked back and forth between Elvis and Leah with her big round eyes. After a while, she pointed at Elvis and roared, "If you don't give me a clear explanation today, I won't let you off." Elvis was stunned. Elvis opened his arms and caught Gu Mingming, who was pouncing towards him, steadily. He let her mess around in his arms and smiled dotingly. Occasionally he would look up at Leah, who was jealous that day. Only when Gu Mingming was tired of messing around did he stroke her hair and said, "When Leah and I founded Saint Nazir, our territories were all snatched from other tribes. There were fair duels and there were times when we used underhanded methods. So, we really can't be considered innocent. But it is definitely not what you think." Elvis supported Gu Mingming's little but with one hand and lifted her chin with the other. With a slight sense of punishment, he kissed Gu Mingming's delicate lips and only released her when her face turned red. He said, "This is the last time I am going to explain this. If you dare to let your imagination run wild in the future, I will punish you by making you unable to get off the bed for 3 days. You will have to personally experience who I am having an affair with." Sob, 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 her partner's husbandly power suddenly exploded. Just thinking about it made her a little excited. Gu Mingming hugged Elvis's neck timidly and replied coquettishly, Yeah, hubby, I won't think any more. My hubby is so handsome he's practically a walking hormone. How can he be gay? Straighter than steel bars. Elvis also did not know what she was talking about, but seeing her obedient and adorable look, he enjoyed it. So he sighed and put her on the bed without his black face. He took the porridge bowl from Lee's hands and said, "The temperature of the porridge is just right. I will feed you." No need. How can I let hubby handle such a small matter? I can do it myself. Gu Mingming reached out to take the porridge bowl. But Elvis sent a spoonful of porridge directly into his mouth and then passed it into Gu Mingming's mouth with his lips. "I've said it before, I already have the qualifications to take care of you. You can't refuse me." Elvis's eyelids drooped slightly, hiding most of the blue glow in his eyes, but turning his tenderness into water, flowing into Gu Mingming's ears. "If you're not used to me feeding you with a spoon, then let's change to another method that I prefer. How about that?" Blushing, Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms obediently and said, "Let's just use a spoon. It's better, it's more efficient." Elvis patted Gu Mingming's little head and kissed her hair. Then he started to feed spoonfuls of fish and sweet potato porridge into Gu Mingming's mouth. Gu Mingming was eating and did not have the time to speak, so Elvis spoke on her behalf. "Leah, what is the ritual that Cole mentioned just now? You specifically stayed behind to tell Xiaomeng about this, right?" Leah nodded. He really wanted to use proper business to distract himself, but he could not hide the envy in his eyes. Chapter 381. Why? Gu Mingming swallowed a mouthful of porridge and asked. "Leah, because the previous messenger of the beast deity said that the real messenger of the beast deity would definitely know the contents of the esoterica." With that, Leah looked at Gu Mingming attentively, as if waiting for her to say what was written in the esoterica. Gu Mingming was dumbfounded. She really did not know what the esoterica was. Nine Manual, or Buddha's palm? Damn, she was not mentally prepared at all when she transmigrated. She swam here and did not meet the legendary almighty beast deity at all. No one had ever told her that there was such a thing as an esoterica? Gu Mingming complimented him and asked, "If I can't answer, will I be treated as a witch and burned to death?" Leah and Elvis looked at each other and smiled. Females who can't answer will be treated as looking down on the beast deity and will be punished. But Elvis and I will protect you. No one can hurt you. Gu Mingming held her forehead with one hand and said helplessly, "Say, if we decide to escape now, isn't it too late?" As they were talking, Cole's voice sounded from the door again. "Don't worry, just because you can summon the flame demon, solder will not make things difficult for you." Gu Mingming was stunned and glared at Elvis and Leah. What was wrong with these two? Why didn't they remind her that someone was eavesdropping? Clearing her throat awkwardly, Gu Mingming said, "No, I'm not worried." Cole seemed to chuckle and said, "The ceremony is ready, can we go over now?" Gu Mingming grabbed onto Elvis's hand nervously. Elvis held onto her little hand and pulled her into his arms, hugging her firmly. Leah, on the other hand, followed behind Elvis and walked out of the stone house. Cole gave a simple bow to Gu Mingming. It was not much respect but just basic courtesy. This made Gu Mingming feel very comfortable. If it was too grand she would feel awkward. Under Cole's lead, the group arrived at a place similar to the platform of the deity's punishment in Saint Nazir. The surroundings were completely surrounded and there was only a path wide enough for one person to pass through. Cole was the first to step onto the platform. He then gestured for Gu Mingming to come up. Just as Elvis was about to carry Gu Mingming up, Leah pulled him back. Only the tribe leader and the messenger of the beast deity can enter this place. If anyone else steps in, they will be treated as disrespecting the beast deity. Elvis raised his eyebrows as if he didn't care. Leah said, You will only make things difficult for Ming Ming if you insist on going up. Trust her. She'll be fine. If there really is something, you and I are right here, it's just a step away. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming again and she gave him a, "It's all right," smile before jumping down from Elvis's arms and walking towards the platform of the deity's punishment. There was a book enshrined on the platform of the deity's punishment. Due to the passage of time, it was severely damaged. The paper was yellowish and brittle, as if it could not even withstand a gust of wind. However, why does the cover of that book look so familiar? Where have I seen it before, peasant? Cole opened his mouth. His voice was sonorous and forceful, as though he was reciting some sacrificial rites. Gu Mingming was taken aback. She looked at Cole, not understanding why he was suddenly spouting nonsense. Peasant. Cole repeated again before staring at Gu Mingming fixedly. Chapter 382. Cole was shocked at first, then he could not control the expression on his face. He took a big step forward towards Gu Mingming and said, "Geese, geese, geese." Gu Mingming smiled stiffly and thought to herself, "Brother, can you restrain the smile on your face? Why does reciting a poem from the Tang dynasty seem to have hit your high spot? What are you so excited about?" Seeing that Gu Mingming did not reply, Cole got a little anxious and took another step forward, repeating, "Geese, geese, geese. Singing to the sky with my crooked neck, white hair floating on the green water, red palms stirring the clear waves." Gu Mingming simply memorized the entire poem. Seeing that Cole was about to speak again, Gu Mingming gestured for him to stop and said, "Don't ask any more. I learned how to read at 3, learned how to write at 5, familiarized myself with 300 poems from the Tang dynasty at 7, and could recite a chapter from my mouth at 9. If you don't believe me, I will compose a poem for you." Gu Mingming placed her hands behind her back and shook her head, saying, "I will remove the general's battle robe, and the hibiscus warms the spring night in the tent. The 6 palaces are colorless, and from then on, the king does not attend morning court." With that, Gu Mingming turned around and looked at Cole with a sneaky smile, saying, "Leader Cole, what do you think of my poem?" With a plop, Cole knelt down on both his knees and got into a position of worship, shouting loudly, "Leader Cole of the Messenger's tribe, welcome back the messenger of the beast deity." Once Cole knelt down, no one else dared to stand. The entire scene was rather spectacular. Even Leah and Elvis followed the crowd and knelt down at Gu Mingming's feet, groveling in submission. The corners of Gu Mingming's mouth twitched and she smiled awkwardly. She took 2 steps forward and picked up the esoteric book that only the tribe leader could read. Damn, it was indeed 300 poems from the Tang dynasty. Gu Mingming felt as though 10,000 divine beasts were galloping across her heart. Was the previous messenger of the beast deity a joker? Using this 300 poems from the Tang dynasty to fool the Sauter tribe for 1,000 years, a book that cost $9 and was worshipped for 1,000 years, and only the tribe leader could pass it down from father to son, then from son to grandson? Gu Mingming really started to suspect if Leah was being serious when he said that the Snow Fox tribesmen were extremely intelligent and scheming. Turning back to look at Leah and Elvis, Gu Mingming realized that everyone was still kneeling, so she hurriedly waved her hands and said, "Get up, everyone." Yes. Cole supported himself with one hand on the ground and slowly stood up. He moved closer to Gu Mingming and said respectfully, "I came late to welcome you and caused the great messenger to be stranded outside. Please punish me." Gu Mingming's eyes drifted towards Leah, thinking to herself, they were indeed from the same factory, they all had masochistic tendencies, asking her to punish them the moment they met? Should he wave a leather whip or drip wax? Gu Mingming shook her head. Subordinate? Leader Cole must be joking. I'm just a little female in St. Nazaire. How would I dare to order you to be my subordinate? Cole wanted to say more, but Gu Mingming interrupted him and continued, Is the ceremony over? You don't have to burn me, do you? Can I go now? My maid is still waiting for me there." Great messenger. Cole took a step forward and stood in front of Gu Mingming. He lowered his head respectfully and said, "Since the great messenger has returned, you should naturally stay in Sauter. This is your tribe. As for your partner, he can stay with you." Gu Mingming raised her brow. "What if I don't agree? Are you going to force me to stay?" Cole lowered his head and said, "I don't dare to." But even though he said that, his body was like a towering ancient tree, not moving an inch. Aside from the topic, about this esoteric book, Chapter 383. Gu Mingming smiled and patted Cole's shoulder lightly. It's best if you don't dare to. After all, if you anger me it won't do you any good. With that she walked past Cole and walked down the platform. Elvis caught Gu Mingming steadily and carried her in his arms. He turned around and left, not caring about what was happening behind him. Leah did not say anything and just followed behind Gu Mingming quietly. The group returned to the small stone house that Gu Mingming stayed in previously. After entering the house, Leah asked, "That esoteric manual, you don't want it?" Gu Mingming smiled. "Are you interested in that esoteric manual?" Leah nodded his head honestly and Gu Mingming replied with an understood expression. Then she said, "I'm lying when I said that I can recite all 300 Tang poems, but it's a given that I can recite the more familiar ones. Coincidentally, I know both poems that Leader Cole tested me on today. I stopped him from asking because I was afraid that he would ask something unpopular and I would not be able to memorize it, but if you are interested I can teach you when I teach Huda and his brothers." Gu Mingming sat on the bed. The more she thought about it, the funnier she felt. She waved at Elvis and Leah. "I finally know why the previous messenger of the beast deity said, the real messenger of the beast deity would definitely know the contents of the esoteric manual. Damn it, at my place, all the children who graduated from kindergarten can memorize these Tang poems. No matter how bad their studies are, they would definitely be able to memorize these few poems. So, I now believe that you guys said that I am the messenger of the beast deity." Leah and Elvis looked at each other and exchanged glances. Leah asked, "Then what do you plan to do next?" Gu Mingming shrugged. "I'll first participate in the beauty pageant and bring the person I like back to Saint Nazir." Leah frowned. "You directly said that you don't want to stay in solder today. I'm afraid that Cole will not let you off so easily." Gu Mingming thought about it and replied, "I think he is quite a gentleman. He doesn't look like he would do anything scary." But Leah gave a bitter smile. "Have you forgotten? The Snow Fox tribe is the best at reading people's minds. This level of disguise is nothing to him." Gu Mingming thought about it again. He would dedicate a book of 300 poems of the Tang dynasty for 1,000 years. Gu Mingming smiled and patted Lee's shoulder. "Don't worry too much. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. My identity was announced in public today and the whole world's eyes are probably on Solder now. If I were to make any mistake in Solder, his life would be worse than anyone else's. Therefore he probably wouldn't dare to use force. Even if we take 10,000 steps back and say that he really has evil intentions and wants to play dirty with us, haha, what if I am in a bad mood and accidentally burn down his solder? What should I do then?" Seeing Gu Mingming's cheerful look, Leah did not say anything else. Some things should be shouldered by males. It would be best for her to be happy and carefree like this forever. The date of the beauty pageant was 3 days after Gu Mingming's identity was exposed. In these 3 days the 3 words Saint Nazir became the hottest topic on the streets. Actually, there was not much meaning in this competition anymore because not only the males, even the females who came to participate in the competition expressed their intention to join them. In other words, as long as Gu Mingming nodded, everyone in solder could be brought back to Saint Nazir in one fell swoop. Beauty pageant, was there still a need to choose? Aside from the topic, Gu Mingming, hoeing the fields at noon. Steamed bun *4. Ow 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 Leah. I want to be the peasant, you be the noon. Gu Mingming rolled her eyes at Leah and changed to another Tang dynasty poem. The sun shines on the mountain in the daytime, the yellow river flows into the sea. Steamed bun *4. Ow 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 Leah. I want to be the yellow river, you be the seed. Gu Mingming slammed the table and changed to another one. 2 orioles chirping in the green willow, a row of egrets soaring into the blue sky. Steamed bun did not say anything and just turned to look at Leah. Leah smiled and said, "Change it, a white fox soaring into the blue sky, how about that? You be the blue sky." And Gu Mingming's face darkened and she changed to another one. The winding path leads to a secluded place, the meditation room is full of flowers and trees. Leah simply stood up and hugged Gu Mingming's waist saying, "I am the winding path through." How about that? Gu Mingming flipped the table and said angrily, "Can you still learn Tang dynasty poems happily? You have worshipped the esoterica for thousands of years, where is your piety? Where is the respect you promised?" Chapter 384. A beauty pageant had successfully turned into a recruitment fair for Saint Nazir because of Gu Mingming's exposure. The first news was personally announced by Gu Mingming. This time she was only releasing 50 slots. That meant that everyone who wanted to join Saint Nazir had to fight for the slot. Only those who successfully obtained the slot would have the right to join Saint Nazir. This was different from the past when the strongest chose the tribe. The primary and secondary relationship had been reversed and the tribe chose the strongest. Elvis and Leah did not quite understand Gu Mingming's decision. Wasn't it better to have more strong males? Why did she only accept 50? However, Gu Mingming smiled. Quality. Quality comes before quantity. Only when there is a qualitative change can there be a qualitative change. If you are not good at it, what's the use of having more? Elvis completely could not understand the difference between qualitative and quantitative changes. He could only nod. Whatever you say. I'll listen to you. The tribe leader and first partner did not have any objections. Leah, the witch doctor and beast pet that could not be recognized, naturally did not have any room to raise any objections. Hence, the matter of the slots was decided. The first question that Gu Mingming gave was a day's hunt starting from sunrise and ending at sunset. The top 10 with the most prey would obtain the slots to join. Hence, on the first day, almost all the males in the city came out of their nests. Even the males who originally accompanied the females to participate in the beauty pageant had actively participated in it. In the past, only the beautiful females would join a tribe and the males would follow. This was the first time a female wanted to join a tribe. Her own males had to have the ability to obtain a slot before she could join as a family member. Joining the messenger's tribe meant that they would be able to live a better life. Females naturally encouraged males to fight for it, especially when they heard that only the top 10 could obtain a slot. Hence, they were even more determined. Competition was a woman's nature. Be it in the present or ancient times, ordinary people or orcs, it was the same. Hence, the males risked their lives to hunt for prey outside while the females dressed themselves up beautifully. If there was no partner in the top 10, then they would just choose one on the spot. They were all the first beauties of their respective tribes. They had blind confidence in this aspect and believed that as long as they beckoned, no males would reject them. Compared to those who stretched their necks to wait for the results, the atmosphere at Gu Mingming's side was much stranger. That. Leader Cole, is it really okay for you to do this? Gu Mingming looked at Cole, who had moved a small table and placed it outside her stone house. He then sat cross-legged in the corner of the wall, holding a yellowed 300 poems of the Tang dynasty, and looked up at Gu Mingming. She was really speechless. What happened to the promised high-end, elegant, black-bellied, Sundara and profound? Could it be that the Snow Fox family's greatest weapon of destruction was this look of innocence in the eyes of an abandoned pet dog? If Lady Emissary doesn't want to stay, I don't dare to force you. However, as Lady Emissary's follower, no matter where Lady Emissary goes, I will follow. Cole nodded his head seriously and handed over the 300 poems of the Tang dynasty, with both hands. This is the esoterica left behind by the previous great messenger. He had instructed us to let the new great messenger take a look. Chapter 385. Cole insisted. He raised his hands above his head and said, "Please take a look." Gu Mingming did not know what to do with Cole and could only accept the esoterica. "All right, I will accept the book. Can you go back now?" Cole shook his head and said, "I want to stay and serve the great messenger." Gu Mingming's face was really stiff. She thought to herself, "If you want to serve me, then so be it. Can you not look at me with that ambiguous and wronged expression? You make it sound like I did something to you." Gu Mingming sighed and turned to enter the house. She pounced into Elvis's arms and said, "Hubby, there's an idiot at the door." Elvis was also helpless as he said, "I've beaten him up so many times that his leg was crippled by me. He actually came back with 3 legs. After all, he's Sauter's leader and we're in his territory. It wouldn't be good if we really killed him." Gu Mingming sighed. "That's right," Leah said, "show me your ability to ignore me. Just ignore him and that will do." Gu Mingming glared at Leah and said, "Is your family heirloom about acting cute and pitiful? You did the same thing last time." The smile on Lee's face froze for a moment. He turned around and said coldly, "He is not my family." With that, Leah walked out of the stone house and dragged Cole, who was sitting at the door, away. Gu Mingming pursed her lips and looked up at Elvis, asking, "Hubby, did I say something wrong?" Elvis stroked Gu Mingming's little head and said, "It's all right, Leah won't blame you." Sob, 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 I really said the wrong thing. Elvis felt helpless. Many a time he was really envious of Lee's ability to make Gu Mingming happy. He always knew what he said at the right time to have the right effect. As for himself, he could never learn it. Feeling bored, she flipped open the 300 poems of the Tang dynasty. To be honest, if this book was stored in the modern era, it would probably be stored in a vacuum in a museum. But the content was really a Tang dynasty poem, the kind that could be found on Amazon's special series of 990 renminbi. It was the first time in Gu Mingming's life that she was looking at Tang Shi so cautiously. But as she watched, Gu Mingming discovered something different. She seemed to understand why the previous messenger of the beast deity wanted Sauter's people to pass this book to the new messenger of the beast deity. There were words on the book which looked like the marks of a ballpoint pen. Gu Mingming sighed silently in her heart. Why did other people bring at least 300 poems of the Tang dynasty and a ballpoint pen when they transmigrated, while she only brought a bikini? Too much time had passed and many of the words could not be read clearly. In addition, the book was damaged and the message left behind by the previous messenger of the beast deity could not be read completely. Gu Mingming could only piece together a few pieces of information. The previous messenger of the beast deity was an honorary consultant of the Book of Changes Association. This kind of person had been seen many times on television. To put it bluntly, he was just a charlatan who spent money to buy a title that sounded rather intimidating and then told people's fortunes. No wonder he insisted on calling fire the flame devil. He's a person who relies on superstition for a living. Gu Mingming muttered softly. Elvis also took a glance at the book. He could not see anything, the entire page was filled with scribbles. Gu Mingming wanted to read more of the content carefully, but it was very difficult to piece together other useful information. The word that appeared the most was dream. Aside from the topic, the author's imagination was opened. It had nothing to do with the plot, my babies just have to watch and be happy. 1,000 years later, the next messenger of the beast deity entered the beast world and came to Saint Nazir to investigate the secret of the previous legendary Gu Mingming. He obtained a magical artifact that Saint Nazir worshipped for 1,000 years, a set of 36D bikini. Chapter 386. Gu Mingming was a little confused. Dream? What does that mean? That everything she was experiencing right now was a dream? Wake up and find that it was all fake? Gu Mingming hesitated for a moment before looking up at Elvis. Then she stretched out her evil little hand and pinched Elvis's ear hard. Elvis gasped in pain but did not dare to resist. He could only look at Gu Mingming innocently and said without hesitation, "Xiaoming, I was wrong." Gu Mingming let go and smiled awkwardly. It was a conditioned reflex for her to admit her mistake after twisting his ear. Rubbing Elvis's ears, she said, "Yeah, it's not your fault this time. I just wanted to try. Do you feel pain?" Elvis thought about it seriously and shook his head. "Actually, it's not very painful." Gu Mingming thought if it was not very painful, could it be that she was really in a dream? After hesitating for a moment, Gu Mingming pinched her thigh harshly. Motherf asterisk her. Gu Mingming was in so much pain that her tears fell instantly. Looking at the purple beads on her thighs, Gu Mingming really wanted to curse the ancestors of the previous messenger of the beast deity. "Lil, Miss doesn't believe you." Gu Mingming rubbed her thighs while scolding with tears in her eyes. "So damn wicked, it hurts so much." Elvis sighed and slapped away her hands that were rubbing his thighs. Then he used his warm palms to rub the bruise on her thighs. He rubbed it rhythmically with moderate strength and said, "You pinched yourself like this the first time I saw you and you did it again today? Do you have to pinch your thighs repeatedly?" Gu Mingming tilted her head. Could she pretend to be a retard? She had already forgotten that he had pinched her a long time ago. Why did Elvis remember it so clearly? But I actually just want to make sure that everything that I'm experiencing right now is not a dream. People say that it doesn't hurt when you're dreaming. If it hurts, does that mean I'm not dreaming? Elvis turned his head and asked seriously. Gu Mingming nodded in reply. Elvis thought for a moment, then placed her on the bed and started to remove his beast skin dress. What are you doing? It's broad daylight, isn't it inappropriate? The scene is too erotic. Hey, don't take it off, don't take it off. The door isn't closed. Gu Mingming stopped Elvis incoherently. Elvis held onto his half-removed beast skin dress and looked at Gu Mingming with a serious face. There are many ways to feel pain. Compared to pinching your own thighs, I think another method is better. Don't worry, I'll try my best to make you sure you're not dreaming. Gu Mingming was already drenched in cold sweat. Brother, please don't try too hard. Gu Mingming didn't was. Thinking of this, Gu Mingming felt even more like an idiot. On the night of mating, she had almost died from the pain, and now she was suspecting that everything was just a dream. Gu Mingming maintained her stiff smile and helped Elvis wear the beast skin dress properly. Then she nodded her head and said, "There's no need to verify it anymore. I already deeply understand that this is not a dream." Elvis scooped Gu Mingming into his arms after helping him put on the beast skin dress. He hugged her tightly and whispered into her ear, "Promise me if all this is just a dream to you, then please kill me before you decide to wake up. Don't leave me alone to face a world without you. To me it's a nightmare that I'll never recover from." Aside, Elvis thought, "Xiaoming, I think you might really be dreaming. It's better for us to verify it." Gu Mingming was so terrified that she stepped back. "Hubby, don't be like this, really? I'm sure I'm not dreaming." Elvis pounced forward, "But I'm not sure." 10,086 words of detailed description were omitted here. Chapter 387. Silly Girl. Gu Mingming smiled and hugged Elvis back. She patted his back lightly and said, "A world without you is just a barren land. If it's a dream, it must be a good dream that I exchanged my entire life's luck for. This is a once-in-a-lifetime luxury. If I'm really about to wake up, you must hug me tightly and make me stay. If you really can't do it, just knock me out. After all, I won't be so lucky to meet you like this again." The atmosphere was just right. She should have expressed something further. Anyway, she was not done wearing the beast skin dress, right? But, great messenger. Cole stood at the door with a snow-white fox in his hands. Gu Mingming instinctively pushed Elvis away, but he hugged her even tighter, not letting her escape from his arms at all. "You're the one who said it, to hug you tightly." Gu Mingming smiled. Gu Mingming cleared her throat and said, "You are taking my words out of context. What I'm saying is, if I'm about to wake up, you have to hug me tightly." Elvis shrugged and said, "As long as you are not in my arms, I will treat it as if you are about to wake up." Gu Mingming's heart was beating wildly. Even though they were an old married couple and had 4 children, Gu Mingming's resistance and immunity towards Elvis, who was saying such sweet nothings in a serious manner, was decreasing day by day. She punched his chest and said, "Someone is watching, it's not good." Elvis raised his brows and glanced at Cole. "You like him?" Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment before shaking her head violently. "What are you saying? One Leah is enough to give me a headache, why would I go and provoke others?" Elvis nodded with a cold expression. "One fox is enough for our family." Gu Mingming was speechless. That was not what she meant, all right? Leah was also not her family's fox, all right? But what could she do if she could not refute him? Clenching her teeth, Gu Mingming sighed in resignation and was about to ask Cole what was the matter. But Elvis spoke first. "Xiaoming doesn't like you, so it's useless even if you win against Leah. Our family's rule is that only challenges with Xiaoming's approval count. Besides," Elvis pointed at the fox in Cole's hand and said, "He is just a beast pet, not Xiaoming's partner. If you want to challenge me, you have to find me." The word "awkward" was clearly written all over Gu Mingming's face. Cole had only treated her as a follower of the messenger of the beast deity and had never once said that he liked her. This kind of behavior of randomly pulling a stranger on the street and then scowling at him to stop coveting his wife, was he a Chinibu or a lunatic? Gu Mingming tugged at Elvis's arm and said, "Cole doesn't like me at all, it's very awkward for you to say that." When Elvis's gaze met Gu Mingming's, it became extremely gentle. His brows slightly touched and his blue eyes were filled with deep affection like the vast sea of stars. "In this world there's no one who doesn't like you. Every male is a rival in love. We need to be careful." Puff, what a Chinibu theory, but my heart is beating really fast. What should I do? Was this the so-called beauty in the eye of the beholder? Oh my, she was already the world's most beautiful woman in Elvis's eyes? Her heart was blooming with joy and the corners of her lips curled up unknowingly. Gu Mingming tried not to look too pleased with herself. She waved her hands and said, "I'm not money, how can everyone like me? Don't spout nonsense, Cole didn't mean it that way." Aside from the topic, alright babies. Today's update has ended. Chapter 388. Cole did not say a word, but his eyes were filled with confusion and some unexplainable things. "Great messenger, can I come in?" Cole asked. "No." Elvis replied firmly without hesitation. Cole did not insist and just nodded his head. Then he placed the fox at the door and stroked his head as if he was stroking a pet dog. He instructed, "Since you have already become the great messenger's beast pet, You must serve the great messenger well and make her happy. This way you, as the Ninth Highness, can be considered to have contributed to the Snow Fox clan. Don't throw a tantrum in the future, understand? This will put the great messenger in a difficult position. Leah kept his mouth shut and did not say a word. He just turned his head and ran into the house, pouncing to Gu Mingming's side and circling her with his body. Then he rested his head on Gu Mingming's thigh and whimpered, as if he was acting coquettishly. Gu Mingming did not understand beast language and could only smile awkwardly. Cole stood at the door and bowed to Gu Mingming, then said, "Then Cole shall not disturb the great messenger's rest. I will guard the door and you can instruct me if you need anything." Gu Mingming, "Ha! Didn't you already give me your book? Why are you still squatting at my door? Aren't you the leader? Don't you need to settle the tribe's matters?" Cole stood at his original spot and replied with a smile, "Since the great messenger has returned, then the tribe's matters will naturally be decided by the great messenger. There will be others who will follow the rules to settle the trivial matters. So, my most important duty is to stay by your side, protect you, and serve you." Gu Mingming really could not get used to the word, serve. It sounded so awkward. So she cleared her throat and asked, I am the messenger of the beast deity, so you have to listen to my words, right?" "Yes, great messenger." Gu Mingming said, "Then as the messenger of the beast deity, I order you to go back to where you came from. Don't block my way." Cole seemed to be in a difficult position. Gu Mingming continued, "Also, I've already said that Saint Nazir is my tribe and I won't stay behind, so you should manage this Sauter tribe yourself. Don't expect me to make any decisions, I don't have that much free time." Cole hesitated for a moment and said, "Or should I lead the whole of Sauter to submit to Saint Nazir? Does that mean I can stay by the great emissary's side to serve you?" Gu Mingming felt that this suggestion was quite reliable, so she looked up at Elvis and then at Leah, only to see both of them shaking their heads at her at the same time. Although the action was not visible, they had after all lived together for so long, and this level of tacit understanding was still there. So Gu Mingming laughed and said, "How can I do that? After all, Sauter is the tribe of the previous messenger of the beast deity. I've just arrived and I've already swallowed their territory. This is not in line with the rules of the martial world." Cole remained silent and his gaze was filled with disappointment. He stood at the door and looked at Gu Mingming huddled in Leah and Elvis's arms, just like an infatuated boyfriend looking at the heartless woman who had dumped him hugging two beauties. Damn it, Lil Miss was hugging her own husband now. Why the hell are you standing at the door with an expression like your Qin Xianglian? Gu Mingming was roaring in her heart, but she only smiled awkwardly and said, "Leader Cole, if there's nothing else, please go back first. I still have to be the judge to choose the warriors to join Saint Nazir later, so I won't entertain you." "Yes." Cole replied slowly, then placed his right hand on his left chest, bowed to Gu Mingming and left slowly. Aside from the topic, I'm not sure if everyone noticed this. When Leah went out, he dragged Cole along, and when he returned he was carried back by someone else. Meaning, he didn't win, he was beaten back to his original state. Ah. Chapter 389. After confirming that Cole had walked far away, Gu Mingming pushed Leah and said, "What's wrong with you? Didn't you go out to chase him away? Why did you get carried back by someone?" Leah transformed into a human, retaining a large tail and a pair of furry fox ears. He pulled a beast skin from the side of the bed to cover himself slightly because he remembered that Gu Mingming did not like to see males naked. After settling everything, Leah then looked at Elvis seriously and said, "Cole is at least a 4th level beast, you have to be careful." Elvis nodded and said, "I also sensed it. Although he had been hiding it well and did not expose his real power, but when I released my pressure that day, all beasts below 2nd level had already fainted. You, who were at the peak of 3rd level, also felt weak in the legs and dizziness, but he remained calm as if nothing had happened. 4th level pressure, unless he is also a 4th level or higher, he would not be able to withstand it." Gu Mingming blinked her eyes and finally understood that the morning when Cole came to look for her after the crowd reported her for barbecuing in public, Elvis and Lee's pairing was not just to act cool. Snow foxes are naturally cunning and Sauter is also the tribe of the previous messenger of the beast deity. There must be many secrets that only the tribe leader knows. Even if many of them were lost in the passage of time, even if there is only a tiny bit left, it is enough to overwhelm us. So, you have to be extra cautious when dealing with him. Gu Mingming patted Leah and said, "You speak as if you are not from the Snow Fox tribe, cunning by nature. I think Cole is not a bad person, he is polite and modest. Look at how the two of you bullied him. If he was really cunning he would have dragged you out and buried you. Why would he send you back? He even carried you back in a princess hug. Leah laughed coldly and did not answer Gu Mingming's question. He just looked at Elvis and said, Mingming's reaction now is the best proof. Gu Mingming asked, proof of what? Leah glanced sideways and used his index finger to lift Gu Mingming's chin. With a face that had never been so serious before, his long and narrow eyes filled with seriousness, he said word by word, Gu Mingming, you can choose any male in this beast world, but as for foxes, just me alone is enough. Gu Mingming stared at Leah. Tiske. Gu Mingming shook her head and wanted to retract her chin, but Leah was so stubborn that he refused to let go. He frowned and locked Gu Mingming's chin so that it was facing him. He looked straight into her eyes and remained silent for a long time, as if he was struggling and hesitating. Finally he gave in and said, if you really like foxes you can consider the Fire Fox clan and the Silver Fox clan. The males in these two clans are also extremely handsome and intelligent. If it must be a snow fox, at least it can't be Cole. Gu Mingming could not break free from Leah and could only look at him with a lifeless face. She asked, you and Elvis are indeed good brothers who have lived together for so many years. Damn, which eye of yours saw the words fickle and dissolute written on my face? Why does everything have to be related to mating and having a harem? I have said it 800 times, I only want Elvis as a male, I will not mate anymore. Leah frowned and instinctively lowered his head to look at his left chest. The pain was spreading. But at this moment he was smiling. Chapter 390. At sunset, Sauter was bustling with activity. After Gu Mingming promised Cole again and again that she would not give him any chance to get close, Elvis and Leah finally allowed her to go out to settle some serious matters. There was an empty space near Sauter's deity platform. Cole had specially ordered people to clean it up because Gu Mingming wanted to hold a recruitment event. Gu Mingming actually felt a little apologetic. She was complaining about not wanting to be the messenger of the beast deity while enjoying their preferential treatment and service. But she had no choice. They had already cleaned up the place and she did not want to use it just to draw a clear line between them. That would make her look like she did not know what was good for her. So Gu Mingming decided to enjoy this 5-star service first. At most she would leave some room fees for them when she left. With that thought Gu Mingming felt at ease. The males had already placed their prey in the designated area in front of them. Most of them had 2 or 3 beasts as their prey. Occasionally there would be a few who only had one prey, but it was obviously rare. But one of them was very special. The prey in front of him was piled up like a small mountain. Gu Mingming tilted her head and asked Elvis, who is that person? Do you know him? Why does he have so many prey? Elvis replied in a low voice, Oraton from the White Tiger tribe. He does not belong to any tribe and attends the beauty pageant every year. Many females have expressed their desire to mate with him, but strangely, he has never been attracted to any female and never expressed interest in any tribe. Nina had tried to drug him in the past but to no avail. Gu Mingming's gossipy spirit was ignited and she asked with stars in her eyes, drug? Do you still have that kind of drug here? Elvis's gaze landed on Lee's face. Gu Mingming followed Elvis's gaze and saw Leah turning his head away awkwardly. He said in an uneasy tone, he is indeed a capable male. For the sake of the tribe, I naturally wish for him to join us. So you and Nina cooperated in a badger game to scheme against him? Gu Mingming's face was full of disdain. Leah did not know what a badger game was, but he knew it was definitely not something good. So he frowned and said seriously, I only gave Nina a piece of beast skin with the fox seductive fragrance on it and told her to rub it on him or herself when she gets close to Oraton to seduce him. And then? Gu Mingming continued asking. Leah sighed. Isn't the result obvious? If Nina had succeeded, why would Oraton still be standing here? Gu Mingming twitched her lips and said, that's true, but luckily such a good cabbage was not taken by that wild chicken Nina. Elvis asked coldly, you're interested in him? Yes. Gu Mingming replied without hesitation, Leah already said that he's a strong male and will be a very strong fighting force after joining the tribe. Elvis sneered, his gaze piercing straight at Oraton like a knife. Smiling devilishly, he moved his shoulders and said, looks like I have to accept my first challenge after mating. What? Gu Mingming was dumbfounded by the murderous look on Elvis's face. Chapter 391. Hey, he wants to join our tribe so sincerely, why do you want to kill him? Gu Mingming's face was full of fear as she held onto Elvis's arm. Look, this world is so beautiful but you are so hot-tempered. This is not good, not good. Elvis squinted his eyes as he exuded a dangerous aura. He rubbed Gu Mingming's hair gently and said, You are pleading for him? Your heart aches. Gu Mingming said, Hubby, talents are hard to come by. Elvis said, Then where do you want to place his mark? Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment before she slapped Elvis's shoulder angrily. What the hell are you talking about? I'm talking to you about strengthening the tribe, not strengthening the harem. Elvis grabbed onto Gu Mingming's wrist and pulled lightly, causing her entire body to fall into his arms. After teasing her like a cat for a while, Elvis then said, What if the condition for him to join the tribe is to mate with you? Gu Mingming felt helpless and thought to herself, Who has a phone to lend me? I will go on Baidu Tieba and post a post called, Hubby loves me too much, what should I do? He feels that all the males in the world have something to do with me, it's quite urgent, waiting online. Elvis saw that Gu Mingming did not speak and the evil fire in his heart burned even brighter. He glanced sideways at Oriton and sneered. I think we should just kill him. Leah agreed. Sigh, the battle power of a peak 3rd level is so similar to you in the past. What a pity, let's just kill him. Gu Mingming felt a chill down her spine. In the years before she came, the rapport they had developed actually included this kind of perverted teamwork to kill a suspected love rival? Sighing, Gu Mingming patted their shoulders. I heard that males in the beast world have extremely good hearing. Elvis nodded and did not say anything. His face was still sullen. Gu Mingming continued. Do you think he can hear you two standing so close to each other discussing killing him? Elvis and Leah sneered. If he is not deaf, he should be able to hear us. Gu Mingming asked again. You know he can hear us, why are you two still talking? Elvis used his fingers to lift Gu Mingming's little face and said with a faint smile, Because he's a male that you've taken a fancy to, so we're giving him the last bit of mercy. If you still have a shred of self-awareness, you should run away now. The corners of Gu Mingming's lips twitched. She would never understand the world of males. Hubby, how about this? If the condition for him to join the tribe is to mate with me, then we don't want this person. My tribe lacks warriors but my family doesn't lack men. But if he doesn't mean it at all and it's just the two of you making wild guesses, then let's take 2 deep breaths and forget everything that happened just now, okay? Elvis harumphed and turned to look at Oriton. He curled his lips and said, Leah, look at the way he's looking at Xiaomeng. Isn't it familiar? Leah nodded. It's exactly the same as the way you looked at Meng Meng back then. Elvis said, It's exactly the same as how you look at Xiaomeng now. Chapter 392. The sun had already set below the horizon and the agreed time had been reached. Those males who had yet to return did not count. Gu Mingming sat on Elvis's shoulders and allowed him to carry her. She looked down at the males who had returned from hunting like a queen patrolling. Needless to say, Oriton definitely had the most prey. It was a difference that could be seen with the naked eye and did not need to be measured. Gu Mingming patted Elvis's shoulders and gestured for him to put her down. After getting down, Gu Mingming walked directly to Oriton and asked, You came back earlier than most of the others. How did you manage to get so many prey? Oriton curled his lips at Gu Mingming. He could barely call it a smile that resembled the expression a high school hooligan would make when he blackmailed a junior. Although it was a little creepy since the corners of his lips were curled up, it should be a smile. Seeing Gu Mingming's strange expression, Oriton kept his awkward smile and returned to his usual expressionless face. I guarded Sauter's entrance and everyone who returns has to give me half of their prey. If not, I will kill them and snatch all their prey. Oriton looked at Gu Mingming and said, I am guarding the entrance of Sauter. Gu Mingming was so shocked that her jaw almost dropped. No wonder that blackmailing expression just now was so on point. TSK. Gu Mingming felt like she was the reincarnation of Sun Wukong. She turned back to look at Elvis, only to realize that Elvis and Leah were smiling in each other's eyes. She tugged at Elvis's arm and asked, Did you do this before? Elvis nodded his head gladly and admitted it. He even felt a little proud. Leah swung his large tail lightly and wrapped it around Gu Mingming's waist. He knew what Gu Mingming was thinking about, so he took the initiative to explain, to be able to snatch prey from other males, it proves that he is more powerful than the one being snatched. Looking at the number, he must have felt that he would definitely win before stopping. And until he stopped, he did not lose, or else these prey would have been snatched away by others long ago. With his skills he would definitely win even if he went out to hunt directly. But he chose this method. Looks like his true motive was to show you his skills. Oh. Gu Mingming replied, not fully understanding. She was still thinking to herself, damn it, males have always behaved like birds since ancient times. Their brain circuits were really strange. What made them mistakenly believe that the fiercer they were and the better they fought, the more girls would like them? Gu Mingming smacked her lips and thought to herself, compared to the hooligans in school, the Prince Charming senior from the swimming club is clearly more likable. Every day she only wore a pair of swimming trunks and soaked in the water. The moment she came out of the water, the sparkling water splashed everywhere. It really made people salivate. Xiaomeng. Elvis's face darkened as he called Gu Mingming's consciousness back. Gu Mingming wiped off her saliva and realized that she was drooling at Oriton because she was thinking about something else. Damn it, it was even harder to explain now. Elvis would definitely think that she had taken a liking to this white tiger. Gu Mingming sighed. She thought to herself that a clean slate would be clean on its own, so she asked, since you are the one with the most prey today, I will represent Saint Nazir to extend an invitation to you. Welcome to Saint Nazir. Oriton was silent for a moment, his face still as cold as ice. He said expressionlessly, I want to be your guardian beast. I will only be willing to join Saint Nazir if you agree. Aside from the topic, previously someone asked me why I said it to be a senior from the swimming club and not the basketball club or the street dance club. Usually the boys from these two clubs seem to be more popular in school. The answer is that when I was writing the outline of this article, it was during the Olympic Games. Chapter 393. Gu Mingming's body went limp and she almost fell. Was it because Elvis was too petty and jealous? Was it because of the sixth sense that males develop from the pressure of competition? But, what's a guardian beast? Gu Mingming turned her head and looked at Leah. Leah swayed his large tail and said, look, someone like me who is handsome and knows how to please you but is not qualified to mate with you is called a beast pet, a plaything beside your knees. You can call me and order me to leave. Leah swayed his large tail and said, I'm not qualified to mate with you. Gu Mingming immediately waved her hands and said, go, 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 go. But Leah smiled. He held onto Gu Mingming's little hand and circled it from her left to her right. Then he leaned forward and leaned towards Gu Mingming. He grinned and said, see, you can order them around, right? Gu Mingming faked a smile and gave up on the treatment. She waited for Leah to continue. Leah, guardian beast is also a type of family member, but its position is lower than the beast pet. It's the first line of defense for females. When they encounter any danger, they will be the first to block in front and fight for time for the females and other family members. But because they don't know how to please females, they usually don't even have the chance to enter the cave. Mating is even more impossible. To put it bluntly, they are just guards of the cave entrance. Gu Mingming looked at Oriton awkwardly and whispered to Leah, can't you be more tactful with your words? It hurts my pride. Pride. Leah repeated Gu Mingming's last two words. Then he smiled and moved his flirtatious face to Gu Mingming. His furry large tail swept against her calf from time to time and he said in an ambiguous and affectionate voice, what's the use of pride for males in front of females? Look at how Elvis and I have degenerated into acting as half-orcs to please you. Gu Mingming then realized that ever since she rubbed Elvis's tail once when she was pregnant, he had never kept his tail. She could always grab it and hug it in her arms. When she was sitting, it was the armrest. When she was lying down, it was a warm blanket. When she was standing, it was a toy in her hands. When she was doing OXX, it was a sex toy. She was used to Elvis's tail being by her side and had forgotten that only half-orcs would have beast characteristics. Elvis, had people been pointing at his back and laughing at him for being a half-orc? How could he have never noticed this? Gu Mingming hugged Elvis guiltily and said, keep your tail, you're clearly not a half-orc. Elvis smiled. It's enough that you know I'm not a half-orc. But they will laugh at you, Elvis replied. I don't care what they think. Gu Mingming hugged Elvis's waist and pouted. Hubby, you will spoil me like this. Elvis said, other females have a few or even dozens of males coaxing them, but you only have me. Since they couldn't compete in quantity, they could only compete in quality. You said that only a qualitative change could lead to a qualitative change. So what other females have? I can't let you have less. Gu Mingming was so touched that she was filled with love. She whimpered, Hubby, you are so nice. Chapter 394. Oriton was silent for a moment before replying, "It's impossible that there are only two males beside the messenger of the beast deity." Elvis narrowed his eyes and his murderous aura started to spread. Oriton did not know if it was because he could not feel Elvis's murderous aura, or because he was too confident in himself, or because he simply had facial paralysis. Anyway, his reaction to the dangerous aura released by Elvis was no reaction. The two of them stared straight into each other's eyes and Gu Mingming felt immense pressure standing in the middle. She did not know how long the two of them were going to stare at each other. Just as Gu Mingming was prepared to retreat a little and look at the other prey, Oriton suddenly spoke, "I have no intention of mating with the messenger of the beast deity, so you don't have to be so guarded against me." Elvis sneered in disdain. "Do you think my Mingming likes you?" Oriton was still expressionless. He looked at Elvis, then at Gu Mingming before nodding his head silently. "Ha." Gu Mingming hurriedly waved her hands and said, I didn't mean that, you misunderstood." Oriton was still expressionless. Although his eyes were looking in Gu Mingming's direction, they did not seem to be focused. He said, "You just tried to convince your males not to kill me. Gu Mingming, Oriton, you even praised me as a good cabbage and felt lucky that I didn't mate with other females. Gu Mingming, Oriton, you even deliberately told me that if I want to join your family, I can't be interested in you." Gu Mingming waved her hands and said, No, I didn't say that." Oriton was silent for a moment, then pinched his throat and looked at Elvis as if he was imitating someone. "Hubby, how about this? If the condition for him to join the tribe is to mate with me, then we don't want this person. My tribe lacks warriors but my family doesn't lack men. But if he doesn't mean it at all and it's just the two of you making wild guesses, then let's take 2 deep breaths and forget everything that happened just now, okay?" The corners of Gu Mingming's mouth twitched. She had a feeling that she could not explain herself. After Oriton finished speaking, he returned to his normal tone and said, "Didn't you say that just now to tell me that if I want to join your clan, I can't be interested in you? If you tell me how to join your family, doesn't that mean that you like me?" Gu Mingming. She really admired the way the males in the beast world thought. Oriton. "Also, you defended my dignity in front of your pet." Gu Mingming turned to look at Leah in a daze. Leah shrugged his shoulders and nodded helplessly, indicating that Gu Mingming had indeed done that. Then Oriton continued, "Also, you looked at me for a long time just now and even drooled." Gu Mingming raised her head and asked the heavens, "Can I choose to vomit blood and die now?" Gu Mingming gestured for him to stop and said, "I can explain about drooling, that wasn't because of you. I was just lost in thought and thought of a handsome swimsuit JPG, it has nothing to do with you, you've misunderstood." The moment Gu Mingming finished her sentence, she felt a chill on her back. Stiffening her neck, she turned around and saw Elvis and Lee's sinister smile. "Handsome, swimsuit, JPG?" Aside from the topic, Gu Mingming, sobs, hubby, I can explain. Chapter 395. Gu Mingming chuckled and licked her lips, saying, "So many people are watching, leave me some face." Elvis nodded and said, "All right, we'll talk about it when we get back tonight." "All right." Gu Mingming pounced into Elvis's arms and kissed him on the cheek, saying, "So sweet, no wonder you're my hubby." Elvis chuckled and gently caressed Gu Mingming's little head. The corners of his lips curled up, but his voice was so calm that there was no fluctuation. "There's no use trying to please me. You have to explain clearly to me about the swimsuit, Prince Charming." Gu Mingming sighed and really wanted to give herself 2 tight slaps. Why did she have to mention the swimsuit Prince Charming? Leah also gave a fake smile and moved closer to Gu Mingming's ear, saying, "Yeah, I also really want to know, how does that Prince Charming look like?" Gu Mingming laughed guiltily and said, "Let's get down to business first, alright? Everyone's waiting." Elvis and Leah exchanged glances before looking at Oriton, saying, "If your condition is to become Xiaomeng's guardian beast, then we can only take it that you have given up on this spot. Unfortunately, you and Saint Nazir are not fated." Oriton's face was still expressionless and one could not tell if he was disappointed or angry. He just looked at Elvis quietly and after a long while he said, "You're the tribe leader but she's the messenger of the beast deity. You can't make decisions for her." Elvis raised his eyebrows and sneered, saying, "To join Xiaomeng's family even if you're just a guardian beast, you have to pass my test. How long do you think you can last in front of me? Oriton thought about it seriously for a moment before shaking his head and said, I don't know, I can try. Elvis handed Gu Mingming over to Leah and stretched his neck to both sides as a warm-up. Then he walked towards Oriton step by step. Was he going to fight? Aye. Gu Mingming called out twice, successfully attracting their attention. Being stared at by two pairs of bloodthirsty eyes, Gu Mingming still felt pressured. Timidly, she extended her arms towards Elvis and said, Hubby hug. Elvis was taken aback for a moment before he laughed out helplessly. He turned back and carried Gu Mingming from Li's arms. He tapped Gu Mingming's little nose lightly and said, Are you that scared that I will kill him? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, We agreed that you will only fight with males that I approve of. He is not someone that I approve of, so don't waste your energy. Elvis was stunned for a moment before his smile became even more radiant. He whispered into her ear, Tonight, is there anything that requires me to conserve my energy? Gu Mingming blushed. Aye. Elvis nodded and said, I understand, of course it's you. Gu Mingming felt hopeless. Heavens earth, she really didn't mean it that way. Elvis protected Gu Mingming in his arms and turned to look at Oriton, saying, You heard it with your own ears. Xiaoming said that you are not someone that she approves of. So, don't mention about guardian beasts anymore. If you're not willing to join Saint Nazir, we won't force you. Oriton tilted his head and looked at Gu Mingming, who was in a dilemma. He asked, Can I ask you a question? Gu Mingming looked up blankly. Ah? Chapter 396. Gu Mingming looked at Oriton like he was an idiot and said, Because I already have a husband. Oriton said, But even an ordinary female has more than one partner, not to mention you are the messenger of the beast deity. Gu Mingming smiled helplessly and answered, You also know that I am the messenger of the beast deity. I am different from other females, I only want one partner. Oriton remained silent for a moment and asked again, Why him? Don't you feel afraid or disgusted? Gu Mingming frowned and looked at Oriton, asking, What do you mean? Oriton looked at Elvis and then at Gu Mingming, saying, His background, you don't know? Gu Mingming's expression was very bad and she said with obvious rejection, I know, but what has my husband's background got to do with you? What right do you have to make irresponsible remarks in front of me? Oriton was taken aback and revealed the first expression that Gu Mingming had seen. He only widened his eyes slightly, but it was enough to show his astonishment. You know his background, but you are still willing to accept him, not afraid of him and not despise him? Gu Mingming rolled up her sleeves and wanted to hit him, but looking at the pile of prey in front of him, Gu Mingming felt that she should be a gentleman and not hit him if she could reason with him. Thus, she placed her hands on her hips and raised her chin, saying, Everyone can't choose their own background. Your mother didn't discuss this with you before giving birth to you, right? No matter how powerful your parents are, it's your parents who are capable and it has nothing to do with you. On the other hand, no matter how evil your parents are, it's your parents who are immoral. When they were dragged to be executed, they would not execute you for 5 minutes just because you are their son. Oriton stared unblinkingly at Gu Mingming's face, listening to her words filled with righteous indignation. Even though he was being scolded, his eyes gradually started to focus, gradually reflecting the petite but capable figure in his eyes. If you have any right to criticize my husband, it should be under the premise that you have done something better than him, and not because your parents are more powerful than his parents, understand? After Gu Mingming finished her long speech in one breath, she took 2 deep breaths and said, Originally, you are a capable male and I sincerely wanted to invite you to join Saint Nazir and become a member of our tribe. But now. Oriton raised his head, his eyes shining brightly as he said, I am willing to join Saint Nazir without any additional conditions. Gu Mingming was taken aback. She blinked her eyes and asked, Are you sure? Oriton nodded and said, Yes. Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly. She looked at Elvis and said, Why don't we take 2 deep breaths and forget everything that happened just now? Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and said, I'll listen to you. Gu Mingming smiled with her eyes curved, then extended her hand to Oriton. Welcome to Saint Nazir. Oriton was taken aback. Then he knelt down on one knee and placed his head under Gu Mingming's hand. He looked like, God please bless me. Gu Mingming was speechless. She exclaimed, Why is the difference in culture as vast as the Milky Way? I just wanted to shake your hand to show my friendliness, big brother. Why are you kneeling at my feet with a righteous look on your face? How am I supposed to receive it? Digression. Today's 9 chapters have already been updated, babies, a friendly reminder it's almost the end of the month. Your tickets, if you don't pass them to me, will expire. Chapter 397. Elvis, on the other hand, was much calmer than Gu Mengmeng. He carried Gu Mengmeng and turned to leave without even turning back. Gu Mengmeng? Eh? We have to choose 10 warriors today. We have only chosen one, there are still 9 more. Elvis smiled. Leah had already judged the rarity and quantity of the prey when you were flirting with Oriton. He has already chosen the other 9, you don't have to worry. Gu Mengmeng? Eh? I am the HR, you are overstepping your authority, you are interfering with the business of other departments, you are. Gu Mengmeng stopped and looked at Gu Mengmeng, asking, do you want to choose a warrior from the tribe or a male for yourself? Gu Mengmeng said righteously, of course I want to choose a warrior from the tribe. Although I can take a look at some pretty men, it will not affect my professional judgment. Distinguishing between public and private interests is my basic principle, alright? Elvis raised his eyebrows and repeated, look at some pretty men, huh? Gu Mengmeng covered her mouth and accidentally said what was on her mind. Her big eyes darted around and she shook her head guiltily, wanting to take back what she said just now. Leah swung his large tail and reached out one hand to hook Gu Mengmeng's chin, while the other hand rested on Elvis's shoulder. He leaned forward in an ambiguous and seductive manner. His moist lips looked even more alluring under the moonlight. His long and narrow eyes were full of smiles, but there was a sense of danger in them. How long has it been since you took a good look at me? Don't tell me, you are tired of my body and looks? Gu Mengmeng had goosebumps all over her body. She had a premonition that if Elvis was jealous, he would at most make her unable to get off the bed. But if Leah was jealous, the scene in her imagination was pitch black and she could not think of anything. But she just felt that it was so scary, so scary. I'm just taking a look. Although I am a married woman, taking a look is still alright. Just taking a look, it should not be considered as indecent, right? Then the two of you would at least look at other beauties, beautiful females, right? Elvis, other than you, I don't look at any other females. Leah, I can't even be at ease staring at you, afraid that someone else will beat me to it and snatch away the little place I have left in your heart. It's fine if you don't sympathize with me, but you're accusing me first? Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and said, I was wrong, alright, I won't look at handsome men in the future, alright? Elvis looked at her aggrieved look and felt very complicated. He sighed and said, if you feel that I can't satisfy you and you need more males, why don't you consider Leah first? Gu Mengmeng wanted to cry but no tears came out. I really know my mistake. I will keep my private life and private life separate from now on. When I'm working, I will only work. When I'm looking at handsome men, I will only look at you, alright? Don't talk to me about mating again. I really don't have that thought. I just want to take a look. Elvis did not say anything more and just carried Gu Mengmeng towards the stone house. Leah wagged her tail and followed behind them. At a place where Gu Mengmeng and Elvis could not see, Li's smile was mixed with a tinge of bitterness. If he could also hug Mengmeng like this and ask her if she had taken a fancy to another male. Was it because he couldn't satisfy her? How great would that be? Sighing, Leah reverted to his usual flirtatious self. He kept all his emotions and pretended that he was not sad. Aside from the topic, recommending her good friend Half Candy, who was currently PK, Battle of the Aces, God of War and Wild Wives, there is a mission that needs to be forged with blood and fire. It needs to be honed with life and death. This was a story about a mission and bloodshed. Mo Bing, the legend of the new military camp. It was rumored that she was arrogant and unruly, cold and heartless. She never cared about anyone. In reality, she disguised herself as a man and became the first female commander in history to command troops on the battlefield. Sniping, fighting, capturing, everything was easy for her. Deserts, jungles, highlands. She left her beautiful figure everywhere. Mo Bing's greatest joy in life was fighting the strong and flirting with the Prince Charming, torturing the weak and fighting with the best. Lung Shouting, the legend of the military world. It was rumored that he was the king of hell of the military world. He was cold-faced and heartless and did not understand the meaning of human relationships. Chapter 398. Back at the stone house, Elvis placed Gu Mingming on the bed and stood beside Leah in front of Gu Mingming. He looked at Gu Mingming coldly and said, "All right, now that there's no one else around, you can talk about your swimsuit, Prince Charming." Gu Mingming felt that she had been living in an awkward atmosphere for the entire day and the cancer of awkwardness was about to break out. She smirked and said, "I haven't forgotten." Elvis nodded but did not reply. Leah leaned to the side and looked nonchalant. He fiddled with his fingers and said with some disappointment, "I still remember that you used to call me Beauty. This is the first time I've heard the term Prince Charming. It seems like he's much more beautiful than me, right?" Gu Mingming shook her head and said, No, the males in my world can never be compared to you. They're not even on the same level." Leah looked up and curled his lips seductively saying, "But, you call him Prince Charming." Elvis's brows were tightly furrowed and he remained silent for a long time before saying, "The first time we met, you wore that weird outfit, was it to meet him?" "How did you know?" Gu Mingming blurted out but immediately realized that she had said something wrong. She hurriedly covered her mouth but it was too late. Gu Mingming sighed and complained that her IQ was not online today. She looked up at Elvis and said pitifully, "Can I be lenient if I tell the truth?" Elvis remained silent and said, "You dressed like that so it was to meet him?" Gu Mingming felt like she was caught red-handed in bed. But who the hell ever heard of cheating before marriage? Elvis's eyes were filled with a strong sense of loss and sorrow. He just stared at Gu Mingming, his eyes like a black hole wanting to suck Gu Mingming into it. "At that time you clearly said that you risked drowning for me, then you even kissed me. But, so that was a lie?" Gu Mingming shook her head. Elvis's gaze made her heart ache. She stood up from the bed and flew towards Elvis. The distance was a little far and if Elvis did not step forward to catch her, she would definitely fall to the ground. But no matter how sad Elvis was, he could not bear to let her get hurt. So before Gu Mingming could tilt her body 30 degrees, Elvis had already hugged her firmly in his arms. Gu Mingming hugged Elvis's neck and whispered in his ear gently, "Hubby, don't let your imagination run wild. I'll tell you the truth, tell you everything, all right?" Elvis hesitated for a moment, but eventually nodded his head. Gu Mingming straightened her body and held Elvis's face. She looked into his eyes and said, "That day, I wore that bikini to meet that swimsuit Prince Charming. But I didn't even see him before I transmigrated here and met you. I do admire him but, he doesn't even know who I am. There's nothing between us really. Don't be sad, okay?" Elvis's brows were tightly furrowed, an uneasy light flashing in his blue eyes. He asked, "What if you saw him that day? Would he not have come here? I almost couldn't meet you, didn't I?" Chapter 399. Gu Mingming snuggled in Elvis's arms and swung her little feet. She thought for a while and smiled, "Actually, I can't even remember what that Prince Charming Sr. looks like. I only remember that he was not willing to admit defeat and was so focused when he was trying his best to advance towards his goal. The confidence he exuded when he stood on the podium made me feel dizzy. Maybe I don't like him, I just don't want to be alone anymore, so I found someone to rely on." Elvis frowned and said, "Alone? Don't you have Jean by your side?" Gu Mingming burst out laughing. "Do you still think that Jean is real? That's just a story. I've explained it many times, there's no such person in real life." Elvis remained silent and did not reply. Leah, however, wagged his tail and said casually, "When you described him from his eyes to his actions, it was too detailed. It's hard to believe if you said it was all fabricated." Gu Mingming had no choice but to explain what a television was. Then Elvis asked, "You like television?" Gu Mingming nodded and said, "If there's no cell phone, television is the best entertainment. So I actually quite like it." Elvis nodded and asked again, "What does that machine look like? Where can I catch it?" Gu Mingming was taken aback for a moment, then she laughed out loud and said, "Hubby, that's a product from our world civilization, it doesn't exist here." Elvis's expression was a little disappointed and he muttered, "Is it the magical weapon from the beast deity world?" Gu Mingming held back her laughter and nodded, saying, "You can say that, but that thing is harmful to the eyes, so it's good not having it." Elvis nodded and said, "So when you first came here, you couldn't see anything at night because of that machine, right?" Gu Mingming wanted to say that even without a cell phone and television, she couldn't see anything at night, but after thinking about it she decided not to, so she nodded silently. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and patted her back gently to comfort her. "When you were by the beast deity's side, You suffered. I'm sorry that I couldn't appear by your side to protect you at that time. That's why you suffered so much and even hurt your eye. Actually, Gu Mingming was thinking, in such a melancholic environment, if she said that she enjoyed watching television and playing with her phone, would it be too much of a wet blanket? Taking a deep breath, Gu Mingming hugged Elvis back and said, "It's not too late to meet him now. I'm willing to sacrifice my right to watch TV and play with my phone for the rest of my life in exchange for your company." Elvis fell into self-reproach for not participating in Gu Mingming's past, but Leah clearly understood something else. "So, before coming here you've always been alone? Aren't your father and mother accompanying you?" Gu Mingming's smile froze. She pursed her lips and shook her head, saying, "My father abandoned my mother when I was very young and mated with another younger female. From then on, there was no news of him, as if he had disappeared from the world. My mother is currently mating with another male, and I, this burden, was finally abandoned after my mother and the new father gave birth to a younger brother." Out of topic. Chapter 400. Elvis and Leah were so shocked that they could not say a word. No matter if it was Gu Mingming's father abandoning his wife and daughter to marry someone else or her mother abandoning her after remarrying, it was all unheard of and unimaginable. Clenching his fists tightly, Elvis could only feel the suffocation in his chest. He gritted his teeth and said, "You are a precious female, how can you?" The word abandoning was too heavy. Elvis could not use this word on Gu Mingming no matter what. Gu Mingming smiled bitterly and said, "In our world, females are not as precious as here. On the contrary, in many backward places, they would even throw their newborn daughters into the rubbish bin or go to an illegal clinic to do a B-scan during pregnancy to induce labor after confirming the gender." Gu Mingming could feel Elvis's body trembling. It was an emotion that was struggling between anger and heartache. She knew that her man was grieving for her past. Raising her head and smiling, Gu Mingming said, "I am still considered good, at least my mother raised me until I was 14. I could earn some living expenses by performing in the small theater in the amusement park. During the winter and summer breaks, I would also work part-time at McDonald's to earn my tuition fees. After I was 18, life became better. When I was in university, I had a full scholarship and the accommodation and canteen in school were much cheaper than outside. So, the period in university was the most relaxing and satisfying period of my life. I originally wanted to learn how to fall in love or something in this most beautiful period of my life. Unfortunately, I did not even have the chance to confess before I transmigrated here." There were many words in Gu Mingming's words that Elvis and Leah could not understand. But they were very clear about one thing, there was a deep sense of loneliness in Gu Mingming's eyes. This kind of loneliness was exactly what Elvis and Leah saw in each other's eyes when they first met. But at that time, besides loneliness, there was also hatred in their eyes. And in Gu Mingming's eyes, there was hope in that faint sense of loneliness. She gazed at Elvis with her clear eyes and smiled sweetly. "I'm still very lucky to be able to come here and meet you. You've given me an unprecedentedly comfortable life and spiritual comfort. You've made me believe that my life is starting to change for the better." Xiaomeng. Elvis did not know what to say to comfort Gu Mingming. After deliberating for a long time, he only said, "I love you." Gu Mingming replied with a smile, "I love you too." As for Leah, he finally understood why Gu Mingming refused to forgive and accept him at this moment. In her opinion, he had abandoned her, right? No matter how many reasons he had, his actions did indeed constitute abandonment, right? Leah lowered his head and pressed on his chest tightly. He gritted his teeth but could not see Gu Mingming's face. He used to have the right to protect her, to comfort her, and to care for her. But now, why should he feel heartache? Why should he regret it? What right did she have to say, "Please forgive me"? Gu Mingming took a deep breath and smiled. "All right, why did you make the atmosphere so depressing? If all the hardships I suffered in the first half of my life were to accumulate good luck in exchange for an opportunity to meet you, I think it's quite worth it." Out of topic. Tragic life is different. Everyone has their own difficult but clenched teeth to persist in the past. We do not have the right to refuse the suffering that God gives us, but we have the right to choose how to face it. Babies, remember, the harder it is, the more you must smile. Chapter 401. Although I have both parents, I still have 6 relatives to rely on. But now I have you and our sons. I have a complete family. I will give you all the love that I had no place to store in the past, then accept your love with peace of mind. That will be very blissful. Gu Mingming hugged Elvis and smiled sweetly. So, don't worry that I will leave you. You and our sons are all that I have left. Where else can I go after leaving the both of you? Elvis frowned, but the corners of his lips were curled up. He could not tell what he was feeling. He felt heartache and lucky at the same time. He knew the feeling of having nothing but someone. He was in such a state himself. He was the leader of Saint Nazir, but Saint Nazir was not important to him. The only important thing was Gu Mingming. And coincidentally, he was fortunate enough to become the only pillar in Gu Mingming's heart. Her reliance made him feel very lucky and blissful. But the price of this luck was that she had to struggle for so many years in a place he could not see. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming tightly in his arms and kissed her hair, saying, "If there is a price to pay for meeting you, then it should have been borne by me. I was too useless, that's why you had to suffer so much." Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "Didn't you also drift around for so many years to meet me?" If the torture he had endured in the past was to meet her, the corners of Elvis's lips curled up slightly. Those bloody scenes, those cruelty, those tortures and those narrow escapes seemed to have quietly changed in his memories. It was not tragic, not pitiful, and not tragic. Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and said, "Thank you for beautifying my life." That night, Gu Mingming told Elvis many interesting things about her working days. She wanted Elvis to not think that her life was too tragic, but no matter how relaxed her tone was, Elvis's expression always became more and more solemn. After that, Gu Mingming fell asleep in Elvis's arms in a daze. In her half-awake state, she heard Elvis murmuring softly beside her ear, "You still haven't answered me, that swimsuit Prince Charming? Who exactly is he?" Gu Mingming's heart thumped twice and she decided to immediately fall into a deep sleep. An ex-boyfriend appearing in front of her every day, a made-up Eugene appearing every now and then, if this swimsuit Prince Charming was added into the mix, life was really rich. The next morning, when Gu Mingming stretched herself and sat up, she felt that the atmosphere in the house was not quite right. Rubbing her eyes, she realized that Cole was actually standing in the house, wearing a strange outfit. It was made of animal skin, but the style looked like the attire worn by ancient priests. It was a cheap imitation. Elvis's face darkened as he stood in front of Cole, facing off against him. Cole was very similar to Leah in some aspects. He always had a humble but distant smile on his face. He just smiled at Elvis. Even though they did not speak, Gu Mingming felt as if she could see lightning flashing and thunder roaring between the two of them. Chapter 402. Gu Mingming ignored Leah. Every night, this fellow would crawl onto the bed like a Samoyed. She used all kinds of methods to reject and defend herself, but no matter what she did before she slept, this fellow would still be on her bed when she woke up. Getting used to it was a very scary thing. Because Gu Mingming would no longer be shocked by Lee's appearance on her bed. Directly ignoring this fellow, Gu Mingming jumped down from the bed and walked to Elvis's side. She looked at Cole and then at Elvis, asking softly, "Hubby, what's wrong?" "Great messenger, good morning." Cole bowed respectfully to Gu Mingming, then said, "Today is the beast deity sacrificial ceremony, to thank the beast deity for blessing the females to survive the harsh winter, and to pray for more cubs to be born this year. In the past years it was always hosted by me, but since the great messenger has returned this year, you should naturally be the one hosting it. So I am here to invite you over." The corners of Gu Mingming's mouth twitched, recalling how Leah stood on the wooden platform and danced the Great Spirit during her coming-of-age ceremony. She laughed awkwardly and said, "Then I am not familiar with this business. Since you are used to it, you should do it." Cole seemed to be a little surprised. Immediately kneeling down on one knee, he said sincerely, "I dare not overstep my boundaries." Leah stood up from the bed, wagging his tail, and hung onto Elvis's shoulder like a boneless person, his large tail circling around Gu Mingming's waist. His voice was still lazy and slightly hoarse. He said, "Hosting the beast deity sacrificial ceremony is a symbol of status. Only the most authoritative person has the right to do so. Since you are here, it will definitely not be his turn." Mingming. As Leah said, he tightened his tail around Gu Mingming's waist and pulled her closer to him. His slender fingers hooked Gu Mingming's chin and his long and affectionate eyes shone with a gentle light. His dark red lips parted slightly and he said, "I also want to see how you look like in the priest robe. You must be so beautiful." Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with tenderness. Gu Mingming rolled her eyes and slapped Li's hand away. She took a step back into Elvis's arms and said, "But I don't know how to dance the great sorcerer." Cole took a step forward and took out a piece of beast skin. He handed it to Gu Mingming with both hands and said, "This is another esoterica that Sauter worships. It is said to be related to the sacrifice ceremony. Please have a look, Lord Emissary." Gu Mingming was traumatized by the word, esoteric. She thought to herself, could it be the hand-copied version of 300 poems of the Tang dynasty? But it was not a good idea for Cole to continue acting like this, so Gu Mingming took it over suspiciously. When she opened it to take a look, she almost choked on her own saliva. 2 lines of words were embroidered on the animal skin with some unknown thread. Sacrificial dance. Small apple slowed down 16 times. The words recited by the priest were the lyrics of the English version of Little Apple. Gu Mingming suddenly laughed. She shook the piece of beast skin and turned to look at Cole, then at Leah. She thought to herself, "Did you know that the previous messenger of the beast deity whom you all respected as a god was actually a clown who knew how to dance in the square? How did this fellow manage to trick the entire world into becoming lame? It had been 1,000 years and they still couldn't find a bicycle? Lord Emissary, is there a problem?" Cole felt that Gu Mingming's gaze was not right, so he asked. Chapter 403. Cole nodded and slowly closed his eyes. He opened his arms slightly to his sides and lifted his chin slightly, giving off a holy vibe. "Love plant ah. It's so perfect that it's like a father and a wife." Gu Mingming could not help but burst out laughing. "Did I plan to find out about the fruit?" Cole widened his eyes and looked at Gu Mingming in disbelief. His agitation was beyond words. He believed that Gu Mingming must have understood the contents of the sacrificial chant from the beast skin left behind by the previous messenger of the beast deity. He had once doubted that it was possible for such a small piece of beast skin to completely record the sacrificial chant with only such short symbols on it. But now he understood that the wisdom of the beast deity was limitless and it was not something he could guess. However, Cole would never know that the reason why Gu Mingming knew about such an unconventional English version of Little Apple was because on the first weekend of school, a few girls from her dormitory had gone to the KTV to sing and bond. At the start, all of them acted like virtuous ladies, but after 2 bottles of beer, all of them became more and more uncontrollable, acting all kinds of silly acts one after another. In the end, someone led them to sing the English version of Little Apple for the whole night at the KTV. Because of that, the few girls formed a firm revolutionary friendship. They even made a pact that whoever broke the dormitory rules would have to sing the English version of Little Apple 3 times in the field. Gu Mingming did not do her duty properly because she went to work, so she had to sing at least 1 round in the field every week. If not for the fact that Gu Mingming was very sure that her dormitory mates were attending classes properly before she disappeared, she would have suspected that the previous messenger of the beast deity was someone from her dormitory. Gu Mingming nodded and said, "All right, I got it. Isn't it just a sacrificial ceremony? I'll be there in a while, you can go back first, all right?" Cole looked at Elvis, who had been silent the whole time with a black face. He maintained his usual smile and nodded. Then he looked at Gu Mingming and said, "Then I will wait for the great messenger by the side of the deity altar." Gu Mingming waved her hands indicating that she understood. After Cole left, Gu Mingming looked at Elvis and asked, "Hubby, why do you look so unhappy? Did something happen? Did Cole offend you?" Elvis hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and did not let go for a long time. After a while he said with a deep voice, "If you like foxes, can't you accept Leah? Not Cole, not Cole." Gu Mingming was almost suffocating from Elvis's hug. She said with a dumbfounded expression, "I have nothing to do with Cole. You are always there whenever I see him. I am innocent." Elvis was still hugging Gu Mingming tightly. "You don't like him, right?" Gu Mingming nodded. "I definitely have no intention of liking Cole. Not at all." Elvis heaved a sigh of relief and said, "He came to challenge me just now." Gu Mingming looked at Elvis in shock. Seeing her shocked look, Elvis felt much more at ease. He heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. "He said he wants to become your beast pet and serve you together with Leah." Chapter 404. You said before that I am not allowed to duel with any males that are not acknowledged by you, so I rejected him. Elvis squinted his eyes and smiled. Moreover, I feel that I can serve you well. Gu Mingming nodded her head vigorously and said, yes, 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 I am already dying to have you. I definitely do not have any thoughts of letting a wolf into my house or having an affair. Elvis carried Gu Mingming horizontally and placed her back on the bed. He tidied her clothes and said, if there comes a day when I can't satisfy you anymore, I don't have any opinion on how many partners you want to get or how many beast pets you want to get. But, it definitely cannot be Cole. Gu Mingming recalled Elvis's energetic and domineering attitude every time and shuddered all over. She shook her head and said, that day will probably not come, don't worry blindly. Elvis seemed to have seen through Gu Mingming's thoughts and his lips curled upwards unknowingly. He nodded with pride and said, anyway, that Cole's intentions are not pure. You should stay away from him. Gu Mingming nodded. Gu Mingming said, why do you say that? Just because he wants to be my beast pet? Oridan even said he wants to be my guardian beast. Didn't you say that his intentions are not pure? Elvis stopped what he was doing and looked at Gu Mingming with a serious and stern expression. He said, Cole's level is higher than mine. He is at least at the peak of 4th level or is already a 5th level orc. Gu Mingming blinked her eyes and said, are you afraid that you can't beat him? Elvis hesitated for a moment and nodded. He said, to be able to break through the 3rd level boundary, it means that he has already made it before. But he said he wants to be your beast pet. This is very strange. I am worried that what if he was instigated by his female to harm you? I might not be able to beat him. Gu Mingming reflected for a while with a dazed expression before remembering the fixed pattern of mating to break through to the 3rd level. For people living in the modern world, it was really easy to forget that there was such a thing as leveling up. Gu Mingming asked timidly, that, if it's 5th level, is it very powerful? Elvis nodded and said, 5th level is already the highest level an orc can reach. In the entire beast world, there should not be more than 100 who can reach this level. Any higher and it would be the Beast King. In the entire beast world, there is only one snake beast of unknown origin that has reached this level. So, if Cole has ulterior motives, even if Leah and I work together, we might not be able to protect you from his sharp claws. Gu Mingming raised her eyebrows and said, Cole is actually a demon king? Damn, we are going to fight the boss soon? I'm not even prepared. Leah wagged his tail and said, don't worry, he won't dare to be rash. Gu Mingming turned around and asked Leah, this half-deity, what do you mean by that? Just by looking at her expression, Leah could tell that half-deity was definitely not a good word and was most likely mocking him. However, he did not mind and just flipped onto the bed. He knelt behind Gu Mingming and started combing her hair. As he deftly combed her hair with his fingers, he replied, didn't you see that Cole's eyes almost popped out when you recited that sacrificial chant just now? Gu Mingming nodded and said, he did look rather shocked, but it was not as exaggerated as you made it out to be. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.